Ready to go? Let's have say, join the meeting in progress. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending in person and online the Village of Ruidoso regular meeting. It is the 11th. It's 1 o'clock. If you would join me, we'll stand for a moment of silence, and then I'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, thank you. We still have some that are learning the salute to the flag, Ron. You still holding those classes?
Mayor Crawford, yes, we are,
Yes,
and we'll even tutor on it, Mayor.
Yeah, will you tutor on it? Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. We had a beautiful day today. We're expecting some wind a little bit later in the week, so we're going to have updates on the PSPS plan from PNM, and it's not just PNM. It's starting to be all over the country now. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and get started. If I can have a roll call, please, ma'am.
Mayor Crawford.
Here.
Counselor Eby.
Here.
Counselor Letterman. Here. Counselor Salas.
Here.
Counselor Hooker.
Here.
Counselor Jackson.
Here.
Counselor Corey.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and go through the consent regular items real quick. Item number one.
Would you like approval of the agenda?
Oh, yeah, I do need one of those. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as presented and allow the chair to move items for discussion at will.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Corey.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jackson. I'm getting a hurry. I know we've got a lot of people wanting to get to some information. Approval of governing body minutes, February the 11th, 2025, regular meeting, February the 18th, 2025, special meeting, March 4th, 2025, workshop meeting. Item number 2 is approval of certificate of destruction number 2025-1. That's for old documents and stuff that are not deemed that qualify that we can get rid of. Item number 3, approval of T-Hangar agreement between the Village of Ruidoso, Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, and Macon McDonald for Charlie 10 T-Hangar beginning March 14th, 2025. Item number 4, approval of T-Hangar agreement between the Village of Ruidoso, Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, and J. Patterson for Bravo T-Hangar B9 beginning March 14th, 2025. Item number 5, approval of T-Hangar agreement between the Village of Ruidoso, Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, and Jason Heller for Bravo T-Hangar B6 beginning March 14th, 2025. Item number 6, approval of T-Hangar agreement between the Village of Ruidoso, Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, and Brad Wazowski for Bravo T-Hangar B4 beginning March 14th, 2025. Item number 7, approval of award of RFP number 2025-005P to AvFuel Corporation for aviation fuel supply equipment and services. Item number 8 is approval of amendment with AvFuel Corporation for aviation fuel supply equipment and services awarded through RFP number 2025-005P. Item number 9, approval of adoption of resolution 2025-08, a resolution authorizing the participation in the Transportation Project Fund program administered by the New Mexico Department of Transportation for fiscal year 2026 in the amount of $2 million even. Item number 10, approval of purchase of Code 3 Technology Mark 43 CAD dispatch software through Omnia contract number 22601-7-02 for consolidated dispatch in the amount of $99,200 $240.52, including New Mexico GRT. Number 11, approval of purchase of Code 3 Technologies Mark 43 RMS Records Management Software through Omnia Contract Number 22601-7-02 for the Police Department in the amount of $78,383.65, including New Mexico GRT. Item number 12, approval of purchase of a 2025 Chevrolet Suburban four-wheel drive through Cooperative Educational Services, CES, contract number 2024-23-C1116, C116-all for Events and Strategic Partnerships Manager in the amount of $64,920.00. Item number 13, approval of amendment resolution 2025-07, a resolution establishing a restricted cash amount and related cash account and related liability account in the Gavilan Road Transfer Station Reserve Fund to provide funds for future closure and post-closure costs at the facility known as the Gavilan County Road Transfer Station in the amount of $34,463.20. We're not planning on shutting anything down. This is just money that we have to put down in the event something happens. But we've got a long-term permit on that thing, and we use it regularly, don't we, Jerry? Thank you. Item number 14, approval of purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBAs, from Municipal Service Company through Sourcewell contract number 011824 in the amount of $267,421.23. This is for our firefighters, emergency responders. The equipment is only good for so many years, and then we have to replace it, and we were fortunate to get a grant. Where'd that grant come for, Ron?
Mayor?
Firefighters Fund and the... Yeah,
Yes, Fire Fund, and then we had matching funds from our SURF Fund.
from SURF, exactly. Thank you. Approval, number 15, approval of purchase of bunker gear from Curtis through New Mexico State Contract ITB 21001 in the amount of $78,375.90.
Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda as read.
Second?
Any discussion? Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Eddie's getting a new car. You don't have to drive his own car anymore. Well, good. You deserve one. You really do. Eddie brings in all the movies and all the stuff to town and a bunch of things. Public input. This is limited to the first hour of the meeting, and if I could get the mayor pro tem to read off the rules.
Thank you, Mayor. Public input, limited up to the first hour of the meeting. Public that would like to speak at the council meeting on an item that is or is not on the agenda, except consent regular items, and does not wish to be scheduled on the agenda, will be provided the opportunity for input at the public input portion of the meeting under the following guidelines. A, presenters shall be either a resident, property owner, or business owner in the Village of Ruidoso corporate limits. B, presenters shall be required to sign in prior to the start of the meeting on the public input sign-in sheet provided at the corner desk and shall provide the required information: name, physical address, phone number, and topic of discussion. And for my benefit, if you could print your name, because I've seen some signatures that I couldn't even pronounce. But C, presenters will be recognized in the order listed on the public input sign-in sheet as time allows, with the agenda items having priority over non-agenda items. D, presenters must state their name. E, presenters must state in one or two sentences what the presenter will be addressing before council. F, presenters must keep the comments relative to the business at hand and shall not make personal, rude, or slanderous remarks regarding any member of the public or village officers and staff, and shall not become boisterous or disruptive while addressing the council. The governing body or staff shall not comment or engage in discussion during the public input period. G, presenters shall keep the comments brief and limited to 5 minutes, and I'll be the official timekeeper there. H, timing measurements shall be used to be distributed equally for all presenters. I, if any of the above guidelines are violated, the presenter will be declared out of order and will immediately cease continued comments. J, presenters may only be allowed to speak once. If follow-up comments need to be made, it can only be done at council's discretion. Presenters violating the provisions of section F, A through J will be requested to leave the meeting and may be barred by the presiding officer from further audience before the council for a period of 6 months.
Well, I should have ordered a sandwich. I didn't know it was that long. And we're just saying out that we don't read that every meeting. We just haven't read it in a long time. So, but we've never had that. I've been mayor here for quite a while, council here, these guys up here. We don't have disrespect. People know that we work hard for you guys. We're listening. So the main point to take away is that people come up and you ask questions. We want to answer you the best of our ability, but we're barred from having back and forth. It takes a lot of time. But if you will let us know, we make a note of everything you say. These ladies over here, then they get them to the best, quickest one, and we will handle them. And you're welcome to make an appointment with myself, Ron, Michael. I think everybody in town's got Michael's number. Feel free to call, and we will get on it post haste. So we're going to get started. So Mr. Out of Order himself, Bill Hall. And we like Bill. He gets it all the time. He's on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Afternoon, Bill.
Afternoon, guys. Well, I wore my Red Sox t-shirt, so
Wow.
I hope that doesn't offend anyone.
It's not going to offend me, so.
Yeah.
So please state your name.
Name's Bill Hall. I live here in the village, and as you said, member of the Planning and Zoning Committee. I wanted to talk a little bit, just to kind of give you some insights. I know we're transitioning to a new short-term rental system, and part of that includes the software. And the software, as I said, will be a valuable tool to be able to have, but some of the other things that will go on in the new system is you may have calls. I mean, I know a lot of you may say, well, the software will handle everything. The things it won't handle is you get a 911 call or a domestic violence call. That's going to go straight to the police department. Or you've got a dumpster fire because someone decided to put charcoal in the dumpster. We've seen those. The good thing with those is those activities are logged on the police and the fire logs. The things I would encourage and the things you want to be able to look at going forward is at least a monthly cross-reference of those events with the listed short-term rentals in the software. And why am I saying that? Well, because we have other impacts that we weren't able to initially address, but eventually the village is going to have to address. Additional trash requirements, either on the weekend or someone has to come out. That's a person that has to come out. It's a piece of equipment that has to come out. Water breaks. I can tell you most of the ones that I've seen, it is an aged system, but I see more of them when we get into the prime rental season for the summer. That happens in my neighborhood two times last year. And the reason I'm getting to that is that's a cost. And that's something where you get people that are normally their normal duties don't include doing this sort of stuff on an external basis. What I'm afraid we may miss is picking up those costs. I would assume, and I mean, this just comes from my background, if I wanted to rent a dozer like a D8 or a D9, I know the hourly cost of the equipment, I know the hourly cost of the employee to run it. What I want to be sure we do as we transition this new system is have something in place accounting-wise so that you can pick up those costs and track them. I'm afraid we don't do that well enough. Like I said, if you have a water line break on the weekend in an area where there's 10 short-term rentals there, well, you still got to fix it. But that cost really isn't what would be a normal operating cost for the water department. And I want to be sure you be able to pick those because, as I said, I think, you want to be able to understand that so you understand also the opportunity cost of what happens when people do things that they got to do them, but it's not their normal course of duties. And that'll affect your rental, your permit fees going forward. And I just want to be sure we have a system in place, whether it's an accounting system where you have a job order or something, when you do something related that's caused by a short-term rental, that, hey, we keep track of that cost, the time, materials, all that. We should, I'm doing good. I already got to most of my points before 2 minutes.
Good.
But that's the thing, is getting to understanding those costs. I mean, and we should as a village already understand, hey, if the fireman has to go out and put out a dumpster fire, we should know on an hourly basis, hey, it cost us $200 an hour to deploy the truck and another, $100 an hour for the fireman that had to go out to do that. Accumulating those type of costs will help you get a better idea of what the true impact of an activity that we know is going to continue to go on. That's all I wanted to bring up on that subject. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Well put. And I'm sorry, I think it's Will Ernst. Did I get it right? That's right, Will? Everett. That's why I didn't recognize it. And then we know Everett. So thank you very much, Will. Go right ahead.
Mayor, Council, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Will Everett. I had a question, and Mayor, it was in your newsletter talking about the desilting project. I'd like to know more of just when this would start. I have property up in the Upper Canyon, so just wanting to know, timelines, what to expect. I think in that letter it was referencing kind of easements, duration, just all of those things kind of in general.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay, we will get that out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Freed? I got it over here. I do right here. Thank you.
Hi, good to see some of you guys.
Hello.
Sam Freed. I'm here to present a petition. Resident, grew up here in Ruidoso. Currently live on Meander Drive with my family. To request a traffic study for installation of speed bumps on Meander to improve the safety of the neighborhood and the community. There are several other residents of Meander here today to also support this petition. The reasons for this request, Meander is a cut-through street. It connects the two high-traffic canyons, Paradise Canyon and Gavilan Canyon, that the majority of people routinely speeding down the street are not residents. They're simply just cutting through between the two streets. So excessive speeding is the main thing that is the issue here. They routinely exceed the posted speed limit of just 25 miles an hour. I know that a traffic speed sign had been there at one point with much of the speeding being over 50 miles an hour down the residential street. There's a high pedestrian traffic just from the residents, hotspot with families, children, elderly residents, people who want to walk, jog, ride bicycles down the street. And it's just dangerous to leave our properties and actually walk physically on the street. It's really close to a bus stop. So that's another thing that we see. There's the bus stops on Paradise and drops off the kids, and then they have to physically walk down the street to their homes. So if they're getting dropped off on the Paradise side and they have to walk, a quarter of a mile down the street, especially at that time of day, it's it creates a lot of close calls. Meander runs east to west, and so in the morning, the sun is directly facing drivers headed towards Paradise Canyon, and then in the towards Gavilan Canyon, and then in the evening, everybody driving from Gavilan to Paradise, the sun is right in their windows. Myself and my family have gone walking, and we've had several close calls where the people speeding don't see us until right before they come up to us, so which obviously we are aware of, and we're moving off the side of the street because we know they're not going to see us, but you can always tell their reaction because they jerk over, not realizing, and then finally slow down. So we did go around. I have my petition to submit to you guys with signatures of residents all along Meander. We walked through the neighborhood and talked to all of our neighbors, as well as some other members of the community who are familiar with the street, to submit to you guys for a petition for traffic study and speed bumps to make the neighborhood a little bit safer.
Okay.
Thanks, Sam.
You want to leave that with me, Sam?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Freed? And I'll read over it, and then we'll get with everyone. Get that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes that portion of it. And we'll move on to mayoral reports and presentation. We'll have a presentation of the new employees, which we're always happy about that. Very much happy. Because everybody knows it's hard to get people to work sometimes. I don't know where everybody went, but they sure did go. And especially when it's cold outside or when it's hot outside. But both times in some of these street departments, it's wet every time. So, and we're working on some new pay scales, and trying to do what we can to reward people that excel, do their job well, and things of that nature. So I think we were just meeting with Cheryl before we came in here on some things. Madison Slofelt. Oh yeah, Madison, she's staff accountant. I didn't know your name was Madison all this time. Madison is now with Judy, which is it's a department that shines here. It's our financial department. We should be getting our audit findings back anytime. Well, we don't know. It's up to the state, but it looks and smells marvelous again. So I know we're expecting a lot, and you were doing some stuff at ENMU, right?
Yes, I'm currently working towards my associate's in
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, you got a great teacher on how things work, and you got a great support staff around here, so we're very happy to have you. You're very much wanted and needed. And it's another good example of a partnership with the ENMU. Those guys over there are so good. We work together when we have deficits. So thank you very much. Can you tell us about yourself?
My name is Madison. I'm originally from Washington State. I moved to Reynosa about a year ago to be closer to my grandmother and also to go to school here as well.
Can I hear you say your name, please?
Madison Schlottfeld.
Schlotfeld. Okay, I got that one right.
Welcome.
Yeah, so thank you very much. We're looking forward to getting to know you better. Joel Enriquez, Street Department Maintenance. Hello there. Glad to have you. So can you tell us just briefly about yourself?
I'm Joel Enriquez, been born and raised here, and I'm glad to happy to work with the
Well, we're glad to have you, especially in the street department. Josh needs all the help, and we're going to have a big old party, Adam, when that hot oil tank comes in. It's rumored that it was shipped. We've only been waiting on this thing for a year or whatever. I don't know. So thank you. But we're here for you. If you need anything, let us know. But you got a really good boss there, mentor. He knows a lot about a lot of things. And it sounds like we're going to have some speed bumps coming up. So thank you very much.
Welcome.
Dominic Rodriguez, and he has started with the police department. Thank you very much. So we're real proud of our police department. They do a great job. We have the police academy, Citizens Police Academy, which started last week, I think. Is that right, Chief? But we depend on you guys a lot, and the community has always been a great support of our police department. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Dominic Rodriguez.
and raised there. And just want to say it's an honor and privilege to be here in front of you guys and serve my community. And just a good start for my career, you know.
Good, and it can be a great career and working in a community that loves and respects what you do. And so we're happy to have you here for sure.
Yeah, welcome.
So thank you very much. Okay, now we got promotions. This is fun too because we like to promote from within. We do additional training, working with ENMU on whether it's getting commercial driver's license, it's getting different levels in the water department, sewer department, and all those things. So it's really nice when we have it happen. And we had it happen here. Jacqueline Pena, Water Resource Manager.
Yay.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And that's a tough position. As everybody knows, water's king around here. And so we have our water rights that we're monitored on. We have a 5-year accounting period. We're only allowed to take so much of our surface water rights under certain conditions, our well water, treating the water, and then eventually putting the water back into the river. And so somebody has to keep track of all that, all of our contracts. It's daunting, I know. And she does a great job. She's been with us for, what, over a year now? Year and a half. So we were able to move her up. So can you tell us just briefly about yourself?
My name is Jacqueline Peña, and I am originally from Anthony, New Mexico. And I moved here a year ago, a year and a half. So I've been with the village for a year and a half. And I started as the water resource specialist. And 2 weeks ago, I got promoted to water resource manager.
Great.
Way to go, Jackie.
We're glad to have you. Thank you very much. So that's someone we depend on because we have constant accounting on these things. Every time we lose water, people don't think about it. When we have a water leak, we have to maintain records on that. When we lost the nearly 19 million gallons during the fire, we had to keep track of that. And keep in mind, the village is the only one, and I say this ad nauseum, don't I, that is monitored. Everything we have has a meter on it, including your house. Okay, so we know where it goes. When we have a fire that goes on, you know, sometimes we have to guesstimate how much water we use, but we have to account for every bit of that. And so it's somebody that keeps us on track, making sure that we're not pulling water when we shouldn't, because we know the snowpack has not been what we usually and wanted it to be. So we know there's going to be some adjustments made. She's on top of it with all of us, so we appreciate you. Thank you, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.
Sergio Nava, Water Distribution Inspector. Thank you. Yeah, he's real happy too. We're glad that he's here. We had some folks that have been with us a long time that does a lot of great work that have retired. And so it's awesome when we have somebody that was riding around the truck, weren't looking where the valves were buried, but now then we have asset management, so we all know where they're buried.
Yeah.
But we appreciate what you do. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Sergio Nava. I've been with the water distribution for about a year and a half. I was born and raised here, so I'm really happy and excited that I'm part of the community now.
Oh,
Good. We hope you're here a long time.
yeah.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Next is Samantha Mars, Water Distribution Inspector. Congratulations, Samantha.
Good job, Sam.
So it's nice when we have people that we can move into those positions because an inspector is something more than what you think. I mean, somebody has to know what job, who to call out to get the work done, equipment, all those different things. It's a lot to it. You need to know what you're doing. So Samantha's been here a while with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Samantha.
Hi, Sam. Samantha Mars. Been with the village almost 4 years. Been with the same department the whole time, just moving on up. And single parent with 1 child. Not born and raised here, but I've lived here for, well, kind of lived here for almost 14 years. So I guess you could call me a local.
Of course.
Well, when they call you one, they might call me one because I've been here a while too and still I'm not. So thank you, Samantha,
Yeah,
for
thanks a lot.
working through the system. We're proud of you. Thank you. And we had a transfer, Mario Ramirez to the airport line service tech. Yes. So we got a lot of things in store for the airport we're working on, and it's eventually it's gonna take us a little while, but we're excited. We did about $14 million worth of work out there last year, paving, lighting, we're doing more. We've got a lot of plans for that place, and we're also working on an agreement to get permanent firefighting helicopters here stationed permanently. It's gonna take us a little while to do it, but we've got the company, we've met with them. Aerotech, they were the ones that were doing the seating and everything here. We met with the owner. He has a footprint all over the world where he does this, and they're based out of Clovis, New Mexico, if you can believe it. We have this stuff right here in our backyard, and we need to take advantage of it. But we're glad that you're going to be out there. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I've been with the company for about a year and a half, from Carlsbad, New Mexico originally. I've been out here probably 3 years, started off at the casino, for a year and a half. The airport offers those certificates that you're talking about, so I'm trying to acquire them and move up myself.
There you go.
Good job.
Better yourself. That's what we need. So you left the water department? Street? Yeah, they're real happy with you right now, so I'm all about the money. So we appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
That's always fun. And then we'll move on to retirement plaque. He's not here. Eddie was with the village for a long time. I'm just going to read it. Oh, my goodness. I didn't bring my glasses. Somebody's going to have to read a proclamation.
I will.
This is the plaque. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That's Yvonne. But Eddie's been with us for a long time, and he retired. We really didn't believe him, but they're all starting to get my attention because we have a lot of folks that are they've earned it. We just hate to see them go because they do such a great job, and they really make it a lot easier on us when we can count on people. Eddie Cisneros, I know a lot of you know him. In service, sincere appreciation for your dedicated years of service with the Village of Ruidoso. We hope you enjoy your well-deserved retirement. He started with us in 2008, and he's retired March 28th, 2025.
Hey.
So that's what you got to look forward to one day, and the benefits and the retirement. The work gets pretty stressful sometimes, I'm not going to lie, because during the fire, everybody stood up and made it happen. So if you see Eddie, tell him thank you, and we'll make sure he gets this, but he's been a great asset for this team for a long time. So we're going to miss Eddie. I'm sorry, I didn't bring my glasses for some reason, and it's one of those sinus days, so if I'm not off during this, it's the Zyrtec, I promise you.
That's pretty small.
Yeah, it is pretty, can you see it?
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to ask Councilor Hooker to read it because and what this is it's a proclamation urging the Office of the Superintendent of Insurance to promptly approve the proposed changes to the New Mexico Property Insurance Program to provide relief for homeowners in Lincoln County, Ruidoso, and other communities throughout the state of New Mexico. It's created under the FAIR Act plan. And if y'all listen to our radio station every Monday morning from 8 to 10, Monday with the mayor, we talk about this all the time. Was that not it? Did I get the wrong thing?
I don't know what.
Oh, here it is. Here's the memorial. I can read this one.
Okay.
You're going to have to read that one.
Okay, we'll do it.
So working with the legislators, we spend a lot of time in Santa Fe. Right now, the current FAIR Act plan covers homeowners, and this is for if you can't get any insurance anywhere else or it's too expensive and you can't afford it. The FAIR Act provides you insurance. It's not replacement value. That's one of the things I have against it. It's actual cash value. And any of you that lost your homes, and I see several of you in here that did, to that end, the flood, you understand the difference between actual cash value policies and replacement. And so it's at $250,000 to $330,000 right now. They're trying to move that to $750,000. We're urging them to move it to $1 million. Commercial is topped out at $1 million. We're urging them to, work through variables and work just like we do with appraisers, estimators, so that we know what's going on with the property that needs to be fixed or repaired, that they can get up to $6 million. And now you have to pay premiums. It's in free, and it is cheaper, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, all the full coverage that you have with your New Mexico homeowners policy. So it's what we're trying to work with. Some banks in the past did not recognize this because of the actual cash value program. And that is if your house is, let's say you borrowed $500,000 and you have an actual cash value policy at $500, by the time you get that rebuilt, it's going to cost more than $500,000 when you have shortages of labor, materials, all of those things. So those are things that we're working on. Do you buy additional insurance? What do you do? Because the ultimate goal is to, we already had a fire and a flood tragedy. We're trying the best that we can to not have financial tragedies too. But in the past, some banks didn't. You were a banker. Did you take it? No. Did you?
I didn't.
See, and that's our problem. And so we're up there lobbying because we know that Ruidoso, Lincoln County, and this isn't just us, is going to have to get homeowners insurance. Real estate stops when this happens. Okay, that's a big part of our, revenue stream here with short-term rentals. Love them or hate them. There's a lot of people employed in that. So we're working hard on that. I'm going to go ahead and I can read this one. But Harlan Vincent, our state rep, asked me to read it. We talk about these all the time, so we need your support. And if we ever put out a call to please call your legislators, we're not talking about calling the ones that are sponsoring it. We want some names to get them to think about what they're doing and how it affects you. Okay? Not the insurance companies, because guess what? They're lobbying against us on this. Okay? So that's what we do. That's the fun and games that we get to have in Santa Fe. So the House Memorial is for the 57th Legislature, State of New Mexico, first session 2025. A memorial urging the Office of Superintendent of Insurance to promptly approve the proposed changes to the New Mexico Property Insurance Program to provide relief to homeowners in Lincoln County and other communities throughout the state. Whereas the South Fork and Salt Fires of 2024 devastated Lincoln County and other areas of New Mexico, destroying hundreds of homes and businesses and leaving many residents displaced. And whereas the increasing risks of wildfires has made it difficult for homeowners to secure affordable insurance coverage through the private market. And whereas the New Mexico Property Insurance Program, commonly referred to as the FAIR Plan, was created under the Fair Plan Act to provide essential property insurance to responsible and qualified applicants unable to secure coverage through the normal market. And whereas the Fair Plan acts as an insurer of last resort and provides minimal coverage on the actual cash value basis, which is accepted by certain mortgage lenders to meet mortgage requirements. Like I said, we're working on this. Whereas the governing committee of the New Mexico Property Insurance Program approved changes to the FAIR Plan in February 2025, including new coverage limits that align with the needs of Lincoln County residents and other affected New Mexico residents. And whereas under the proposed changes, the FAIR Plan would increase coverage limits for residential properties up to $750,000 while remaining coverage limitations for commercial properties. And whereas these changes strike a balance between providing necessary coverage for homeowners in high-risk areas and maintaining the long-term financial sustainability of the FAIR Plan. And whereas the Office of Superintendent of Insurance is responsible for reviewing and approving proposed changes to the FAIR Plan before they can be implemented. And whereas delaying approval of these changes continues to prolong uncertainty for Lincoln County residents and other state residents in need of insurance coverage, and to rebuild and return to their homes. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the House of Representatives of the State of New Mexico that the House of Representatives fully support the governing committee of the New Mexico Property Insurance Program's decision to approve increased coverage limits under the New Mexico Property Insurance Program, recognizing that this action will provide critical relief to homeowners in Lincoln County and other communities across the state. And be it further resolved that the House of Representatives urge the Office of Superintendent of Insurance to properly approve the governing committee of the New Mexico Property Insurance Program's proposed changes so that Lincoln County residents can secure policies as soon as possible and begin the process of rebuilding and returning to their homes. And be it further resolved that copies of this memorial be transmitted to the Superintendent of Insurance, the governor, and the members of the governing committee of the New Mexico Property Insurance Program. Okay, so that's a lot of words. And the way things work in Santa Fe, they're there on the weekends. Ron was looking till late the other night on a bill that we were supposed to be up on that got bypassed. So we don't know what's happened to it, but we spend a lot of time pushing these things, massaging them, gaining support wherever we can find it for you, for our village, and for Lincoln County. And so, when you talk to people, you listen, and that's what we do. You need to listen to your neighbors, and then when you're talking to other people in other communities in the state, ask them these questions about their insurance and just see how they're faring. So we will enter that into it. Now we have a proclamation, March 9th through the 15th, 2025 as AmeriCorps Week. And this is one I'm going to have you. Got it?
I'm ready.
Okay, go.
Whereas, service is a hallmark of the American character and has the unique ability to bring people of all backgrounds together in common cause, and throughout our history, citizens have stepped up to meet our most pressing challenges of the day by volunteering in their communities. And whereas, AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Seniors programs provide opportunities for more than 200,000 Americans to serve their country through service at nonprofits, schools, public agencies, community, and faith-based groups across the country. And whereas in the village of Ruidoso and Lincoln County, New Mexico, more than 250 AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps seniors, volunteers of diverse ages and backgrounds, help to meet local needs at more than 15 locations in the village of Ruidoso by responding to COVID-19, tutoring or mentoring children and youth, supporting veterans and military families, combating the opioid epidemic, restoring the environment, responding to disasters, providing nutritional, clothing, social support, supporting veterans and military families, and responding to disasters. And whereas AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers encourage collaboration and partnerships, leveraging millions of volunteers in service and acquiring the support of businesses, foundation, and other local partners to increase the effectiveness of their initiatives. And whereas AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Seniors programs bring people together across race, age, and zip code to address critical issues facing the country, forging relationships and cultivating mutual respect, and help build resilient and thriving communities. And whereas AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas through their service, AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers strengthen the lives of their families, communities, and the village of Ruidoso and Lincoln County, New Mexico as a whole. And whereas national service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayer dollars. And whereas AmeriCorps is an opportunity to recognize the dedication and commitment of more than 1.2 million Americans who have chosen to serve their country through AmeriCorps, and millions more who have served AmeriCorps seniors and their community partners, and to encourage more Americans to follow their footsteps in service. Therefore, be it resolved that Lynn D. Crawford, Mayor, the Village of Ruidoso, do hereby designate March 9th through the 15th, 2025, as AmeriCorps Week in the Village of Ruidoso, and urge citizens to thank AmeriCorps members and alumni and AmeriCorps senior volunteers for their service and to find their own way to give back to their communities. Proclaimed this 11th day of March 2025 in Ruidoso, New Mexico.
Hey.
Thank you. And if y'all don't know, we have a local group ran by Stephen Carter, and he employs a bunch of these folks. This is RSVP. Thanks for that. I was giving somebody, he still needs credit though. Okay.
So it's the same.
Both get
So both of them. So the RSVP program, some of you are probably in that. It's a very robust program made up of retired senior volunteer program. That wasn't the RSVP, I never knew. But those people are amazing. They show up, they help, they do whatever, whenever, on so many different committees all over the town. And then Eco Servants, Stephen Carter gets money for that, and they do a lot of the trail reclamation. So any of you hikers that are walking around above Grindstone, which is back open again, and we've got Grindstone, we've got some stuff in Cedar Creek. These guys are busy all the time. They go after their grant money, but you'll see a lot of them out there working hard. And so we appreciate all the volunteerism. And I can't tell you, we spend a lot of time in Santa Fe and with the Municipal League talking to mayors to 106 communities, and they all have the same problem that we don't have. They can't get volunteers. They can't get people to sit on planning and zoning, on lodger's tax, on the cemetery board. Just think about it. And so the council has to do all those things, and that's not the way a community should be ran. So we appreciate everybody that volunteers, the hard work that people do, and the input that you give, because that's what makes us who we are, it really is. So we appreciate you guys. Now we'll move on to the Humane Society. So if you guys want to come on up, and I'll have you introduce yourself. And I'm a big dog person, everybody knows that. And I'm also 100% against speeding. My dog got ran over right in front of my house in a 20-mile-an-hour zone. And yes, I should have had him on a leash, and yes, whatever, but she was speeding and there wasn't time. So I'm very sensitive to those issues. We talk to the chief all the time, and we have the usual street. So we love our dogs, and I've seen quite a few people this last week, and actually yesterday, that were going out volunteering, taking the dogs to the dog park. And I see one lady in here, she's down there every time I'm there. Quite a few of them, and we love what you guys do, so go right ahead.
All right. Good afternoon already to everybody.
Hit your button.
On there, green.
Better?
There
Yes.
you go.
All right.
Gotcha.
I'm Abel Guzman, Executive Director of the Humane Society.
I'm Chris Shows. I'm the shelter manager.
And we just wanted here to give you guys an update as to 2024. As we know, there was a huge fire, but we were able to get through this thanks to the help of the village and the other entities that were involved in this. But for 2024, we actually had just a total of 1,075 animals that came in. Of those 1,075, 490 were from the village themselves. It's about average. It hasn't gone up too much from previous years. We did want to report the microchipping. We've done over 400 animals that have been microchipped, so this has been a great success, and we've seen a lot of these animals coming in go right back home because of the microchip.
Good.
And lots of times they even, the animal control has been able to scan the chips there on site, and we can just let them know what address they got to go to get these animals back. So that has been a great success. We also wanted to just let you guys know, we had a World Spay Neuter Day just recently. We did 91 spay and neuters for free for the community. That was a great success.
What doctors help you out with that?
We had Dr. Cooper from Carrizozo, Dr. Washburn Capitan, Franklin Vet Clinic, and Redoso Animal Clinic. And we also had Dr. Willard, who's retired.
Oh, really?
Came
You got him
to
out
our-
of his chair.
Yeah, we had him come out to our clinic and did some surgeries for
Well,
us.
good. Well, we appreciate what you guys did on that, and all that you do on that spay and neuter program, and the money that you're able to receive for that and getting people out.
Oh, yeah. And we also have our SPOT program and our TNR program. That's for feral cats. We did over 290 feral cats last year. Our SPOT program, we did over 185 animals through that, which
Well,
is for
you got an
low.
audience here and there, so tell them what the SPOT program is and how it works for cats.
Yeah, so our SPOT program is a low-income program. You can qualify for that. If you qualify, it's $45, that's all it is, for owned animals. Our TNR program is our feral cat colony to spay and neuter those so we can control the population of our TNR. That's been a great success. We've had that for years. That one is only $35.
So I'll get a kitten that's running around my house. I don't know where it came from, but you don't want them to starve, and then you feed them, and this is where it gets. Next thing you know, you got 20. So you can catch them, bring them in, you'll neuter them, spay them, and you pick them up and take them back and drop them off after I pay the 30 or 45.
So you'll come into us, we'll give you a voucher. You take it to your vet, you make an appointment with your vet. Just about all the vets in town,
Do it.
in Lincoln County are participating in this. They call the vet, they make an appointment, take the animal in and release it back where you found it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So this is something y'all to look at, think about, how you're helping. And we have so many people that don't own them, but they're right there in their neighborhood or in their houses.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to say they're mine when you're asking,
Exactly.
So, and then we always try to help raise some money for that program too, so.
Yeah, no, thank you, appreciate it,
ahead.
And Chris, just give an update on what happened during the fire.
So as everybody's well, we all had to evacuate and stuff. We were very lucky that one of our rescue partners actually reached out to Bernalillo County. They came in and housed own animals down in Roswell, so that when we had to evacuate the shelter alone, Bobby Simpson, the Ruidoso Animal Control Officer, was able to work it out and get us a temporary shelter at Wharton Stadium. One of the things that we found with this fire is that we weren't prepared. We weren't ready. We're trying to do what we can to get ready. One of those things is getting a temporary shelter ourselves. That way we're not having to rely on other communities or somebody else to come and help. We're gonna be able to go and deploy and set up a temporary shelter where needed, anywhere within the county, to help out when people are having to evacuate. They can bring their animals and still stay with their animals and be there with them. That's one of the things that we're trying to work on, that involves getting a tent, trailer, vehicles, kennels, supplies, everything else. If it wasn't for that rescue partner calling out Bernalillo County, I'm not sure what would have happened, in all honesty. When we had to leave the shelter that night on Tuesday, when Bobby came and told us that we had to leave, that was 80 animals that we had to worry about. And without Bernalillo County stepping up and Otero County and, Doña Ana County coming in and to our aid and helping, we didn't have anywhere else to go. We did have Wharton Stadium as a temporary, but if things would have turned, we need to have those places where we can go and set up. That's one of our biggest projects. One of my biggest projects is working on getting that temporary shelter so that we can deploy where we need to within the county and set up and take care of animals as they're being evacuated.
What are you doing? I mean, that's going to require some funding or whatever?
It's going to require funding, grants, probably volunteering, and just getting all that stuff together and going and talking with Bernalillo County, Doña Ana County. They've let us know that they would help us as far as coming up with procedures and how they do it and, the equipment and stuff that they have so that we can kind of model something along that way.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Go right ahead.
If you have a kennel, if someone has a kennel and they're trying to get rid of it, would you take that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We can use those, yeah.
Okay.
Was the former animal shelter, was that not an option?
No, sir, the building itself, there's all kinds of debris and whatnot within the shelter. So you can't really even walk in there.
Okay, thank you.
And then at the time when we were trying to leave on Monday, Capitan, the road to Capitan was already closed. I ended up outside San Patricio is where I actually got phone service, and that's when I reached my rescues. They were calling me. So we need to be able to have different areas that we can go and set up within the county so that we know, depending what area it's coming from, where to go and where to set up.
Okay. Have you worked with our emergency manager?
Talked to him just a little bit. With us being a nonprofit and kind of on our own, a lot of this does fall on our shoulders to kind of help. And
Well, I mean, he'll be happy to help you. I don't see him in here.
No,
And the
Eric.
fire chief was here earlier. I saw him somewhere. He's the hardest guy to find. I have to look for a mustache and work up. Is Kate here?
No,
outside
Oh, no wonder I couldn't find him.
on the phone.
But we'll be happy to get with you guys and work on it because they work
Yes,
on
sir.
emergency routes and how things put a plan into the emergency action, when we should notify you earlier because it takes you a while.
yes, sir.
Okay.
And one of the things we're also pushing is, we get ready to evacuate ourselves and that we need to include our animals in that plan. Are we taking our animals, some shelters, we might be at a spot where we can't take your animals. You need to make that plan with your animals to go, food, kennels, supplies, medication, all that stuff. So we're trying to get that information out as well.
Well, good. And you guys are going to have your own radio show here pretty quick, I hear.
Yes, we are. Yeah,
Okay,
we're
so
looking
you'll
forward
get to talk
it.
about that all the time.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And we're going to be talking about another issue on here in just a little bit. So we'll be on 99 FM, 99.1 FM and a.m. So hopefully it gives you a little platform to just educate people on what you need.
Oh, definitely, no.
So that's good, because people that don't know, the village raises money, we do stuff, and then we help subsidize these guys a little bit because they do such a great job on what they do, but they rely on everybody else to donate. And so if you can donate money, that's always good. And food. Volunteer, and that's a big deal, and that's what I'm saying. I see some of these folks here, and out at the dog park, it's really nice when they're out, and the dogs are getting so well adjusted and behaved that, you know, that people can see it's an easy transition in a lot of cases. Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is.
It helps them find homes, you know, when they have volunteers.
And I hear this is the first time in a long time you're not packed.
Yes,
And
true.
so you had a deal at ENMU Saturday?
Saturday, and we did end up with 4 adoptions that day.
Hallelujah, that's awesome.
So,
So that's good work that you guys do.
thank you.
Thank you, appreciate your guys' support.
Yes, thank
How's
you.
your resale shop doing after the flooding? I know you got some,
We're doing a lot better. We're doing a lot better, and again, that's another way to donate
Yeah.
towards this.
you got furniture,
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
so that's great. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Anybody have any other questions? Abel or Chris?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
What
We
you do.
appreciate it a
Thank you.
lot.
Thank you, Abel.
Another great partner for the village right there. Also, we're going to get one, okay, Fast Eddie, you're up, buddy. Update on the 2025 Municipal League Annual Conference. We were able to land that this year. It's in 2 weeks after Labor Day. It's the week after Labor Day is the air races in Roswell. So we're going to participate in that. We expect thousands of, is it that hot in here? Ron, you got to do it. Susan has us in here like baking cookies. It's hot.
Oh, and usually I'm blue because it's so cold.
So we were awarded it, so then that
Yes.
means that we'll have the 106 communities that are in the league. We'll
Yes.
have those folks coming to town, staying in our hotels, eating our food, buying things, and we're going to show them a good time, and Eddie's going to tell us what they've got planned. Go ahead, Eddie.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I've been working with Maria Valdez with Municipal League in regards to creating a very impactful event. So the one thing that we've been looking at is having the Wild West on Midtown, where we close down Midtown and we actually have music, interactive Billy Kid gunfights, and Chuck Wagon, and really make it an experience that people won't forget. So that's something that we're working on for the Wednesday night. And then we're also looking at creating a themed dinner event, which will be on the Thursday night, which would be kind of like, we're thinking about doing a masquerade kind of themed event. So that way it's something a little interesting, a little bit fun. And we're just trying to decide on what venue would be the best fit for that event. So we're looking at probably having about 500 attendees, I think is what we're looking at for this event. So it's just finding a venue that would be able to handle the catering and F&B, also have enough space that's comfortable space too. I know we're looking at possible options like maybe the Jockey Club. I know there's talk possibly about maybe the Spencer Theater or in different venues. So we're just looking at trying to find a venue that would best accommodate the event and give the most impact so people, when they walk away from our Municipal League event, they're like, wow, the Ritos are really hit it out of the park. So it's just coming up with the best venues for these events.
Eddie, would you have to transport the attendees to the venue?
Councilmember Cober, yes, we would have to have transportation, similar to what they did in Clovis with passenger buses, and that's something that we'd be working on
Are
having.
you going to work with the Bryants on?
Yes, I'm working with Matt Beard and Bernadine Herrera with the village, and I believe Matt has worked with them in the past on that.
Yeah, we're working with the local bus operators. They've got some, the big nice ones, but we're going to have to hire, there's going to need to be more than what they have, so
Yeah.
he's
Yes.
working with out of town ones too.
Yes, yes. But it's moving along. We're putting it together, and we're hoping that we'll be able to give you an updated agenda here pretty soon, and just really kind of finalize getting the venue squared away and, the best place for these events. And we're open to ideas and whatever input you have with these.
Did you consider Flying J?
Yeah, I've talked with them about it, so that's another option too. And they said they could do 500 people in the main room. So that's an option too, to look at Flying J as well.
And I've already picked a keynote speaker. So get with Mariah, make sure they book that guy. He's awesome.
Okay.
I mean, I go to this stuff all the time and I, give it that. This guy was taking notes and everything, and I booked him that day. It was in Florida. He was
Motivational type?
no, just more of a common sense. He's a PhD and taught at universities, but he just talks about basically how to control what's between your ears. And you don't even know it until after he tells you that he just told you how to do it. And you leave out of there. Yeah, I know. That's what she said.
Sorry.
Mayor, that's not the one that we had a couple weeks ago. We had to jump and dance and do all that.
No. No, we're not going to do any moronic things. There's enough of that going on in the world. But you'll love it. Here comes the forest. Deputy Forester right there. We'll have a key from her, yeah. And then you're going to have a golf tournament, I see, on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yes.
And then a bunch of stuff, and we'll make sure we gear all the businesses. And I heard that the soap magnate is putting a bar of soap in there that says Ruidoso.
That's right.
Okay, so we need to talk to the candy maker.
Yes.
Everybody, and make sure that we have a really cool swag bag. Last year in Clovis, we got, I don't know how much was that?
Block of cheese.
Block of cheese.
Oh,
5 pounds, was it? 5 pounds.
5-pound bag, and we cut it up and froze it, and it works good, but we're still eating on it.
Yes, yes.
Mayor, going back to the breakfast, we're not going with the 6-ounce cup of coffee. Remember that?
No, we're gonna have some
No,
coffee.
we need a cup of coffee. You need a cup of coffee. So.
Yeah.
So, and the whole goal is to show off Ruidoso, and we really didn't think we were going to be in the running because of the fire and everything, but we've rebounded significantly. In the village, our GRT, our businesses, most part are doing really well. The track is going to be opening, so, we're really planning on getting back. Some of our businesses are just have held on, but then some have said it's the best they've ever had, so.
Yeah, we're working with RMA right now to have the businesses stay open later, hopefully during the events. That way people can go down there after hours and be able to go shopping and get some food.
Oh, there's Duckworth, I see him right there.
Yep.
RMA Director Tim Duckworth and the fancy flannel there, and he's been doing a good job. You're having a mixer tonight after this evening?
That's correct.
Okay, at the RMA. You're going to have a fun run walk at Grindstone, 5K, breakfast provided. And so it sounds like there's going to be a lot of things. And the municipality puts in a lot of money for these things. Different workshops on a lot of things that we do. And I think the masquerade dinner and dance will be pretty
Something
fun.
different, something kind of fun, and just kind of mix it up a little bit. Make it, because the last one their theme was Broadway, I think, in Clovis, and that was their whole theme, the Broadway thing. So talking of Mariah, she's like, maybe do something different, like a masquerade thing, so that way one's wearing masks and they walk in, and it's,
So you'll have a whole big deal there full of masks.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're looking at, for some giveaways, we're working with Mike Free on doing some business card bearer holders.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a really cool thing. So he's presented some really neat looking, business card holders. So that's an idea.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Mayor, I have a question. On Midtown, what section are you blocking off or closing?
Center, from where Indulgence is down to where Hidden Tap is.
What street is that?
Center and Eagle, I believe, is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, and so looking at blocking those off and then having the event inside that. So the key parts would be like Win Place and Show and Quarters, and then you have all the different businesses all right in there. It's similar to kind of like what they did in Clovis, where they kind of cornered off that area.
Right.
And then we would have music, we would have interactive simulated gunfights, and people wearing period correct clothing, walking around, taking pictures with people and making it fun.
So you'll have to get the state to approve.
Yeah, I'll work with Francisco on, we've already kind of started that, so we'll work with Francisco on closing it off for that period of the event. Yep.
Okay.
Is the chamber helping?
Yes, yeah, I've been very supportive of the chamber and RMA.
It's all hands on deck deal.
Yes,
Yeah, we
Yes.
want to make it really shine.
absolutely.
Anybody else have any?
Great job,
Very
Eddie.
good.
Thank you.
When's the movie wrapping up?
The 15th.
15th this month. He's been part of bringing in another movie. It's called Dead Letters.
Yes,
And stars Margot Martindale. If y'all don't know Margot Martindale, she's been like a character actor in hundreds of movies.
yes.
Some of my favorite series, like Justified, and some of those, she always has a big part. She's got a new one on one of the streaming services called Sticky. Then we had Jefferson White, which plays Jimmy on Yellowstone.
Yes,
The young guy, he's got his own series getting ready to start called The Four Sixes.
yes,
He's a star in this movie. And then we had Stephen Root, which
Yes.
is another great character actor that was in it.
Yeah.
And then Jughead, I forget Jughead's.
yeah, Cole Sprouse.
Cole Sprouse, which has a twin brother.
Yeah,
And
Cole
he
Sprouse.
was here in the movie. So it's really getting, we learned something on the big budget like McConaughey, it really disrupts everything. And these smaller ones, they have a lot of our locals that were hired. Pam Whitty was doing different things. We had hair, makeup, we had clothing, what do you call that? Wardrobe.
Yep,
Different ones from the road also working in there, and so they all get paid.
yep.
And so we're working hard with that, and Eddie, you do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, next we're going to go into, with our chief, our fire.
He's out there on the phone. Yep, he's on the phone.
And, well, while we're waiting, Amanda, would you mind coming up? I know you're not on agenda, but we're talking about fire level restrictions. You can fall in that because isn't the state getting ready to do a little something?
You already did, I thought.
Hi, Sam.
We already hit your portion of the show? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but we'll get on it. And introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Amanda Ginnathan. I am the Deputy Forest Supervisor, one of two Deputy Forest Supervisors for the Lincoln National Forest. Nice to be here.
Nice to be here.
Very impromptu, but.
Well, and that's why you get around here. When we got questions, we want to get answers.
No.
So we've got our fire chief coming in. We're getting ready to move to level 2 fire restrictions, or we already have.
Yeah, yesterday.
And you're going to be at level 1, so it's confusing to everybody, and myself included, because we're on different ones. So tell us what the forestry is going to do. Well, whichever one. Okay, you're going to go first, chief.
Okay, Mayor, Council, we went to level 2 Monday at noon. So that means no outdoor, all the outdoor burning that we had permits for, they're null and void. They've been disbanded, so you can't use those anymore. No outside smoking. You can use pellet grills, you can use gas grills, but they have to be monitored.
You got to be able to stand there with them, and you got to be able to turn them off.
Exactly. No fireworks, but you've never been able to have fireworks.
Never.
Spark arresters, we want you to come by the fire station so we can look at your spark arresters.
And I heard you had one turned down today. He called me. And what a spark arrestor is, just on the mufflers, if you have a backfire, it doesn't spark out. If y'all remember the ballpark fire on Ski Run Road, that came from a chainsaw that got in some pine needles and.
Exactly, and we'll be more than happy to check those at any of our fire stations. Just come on by, and we'll give you a permit for it. And then, kind of in the same part of that of welding or cutting torches outside, basically, they're banned without a permit. And so, if you're gonna need to do anything like that, we'll take it and we'll go and check the site.
But I'm over here working on the building, and I'm going to do some structural welding. I just need to call the fire department. You come over, interview it, you give us a permit.
Correct.
So work continues.
Right, and with the chainsaws and with the welding, if you're in a red flag day or something like that, your permit's not good.
Everybody knows what a red flag day is. We talk about it, and the
Today.
flags are blowing. So,
Chief, how are we communicating this to the people managing short-term rentals? Do they have signs or?
They have it all over the Facebook, and then we put it all over our website. And then I believe Alex and them have communicated that with their people.
Okay.
Have we, Alex?
I confirm that, yes, we've emailed that out to the short-term rental operators.
And we'll do it again, too.
Thank you.
And may I have a question? Alex, short-term rentals cannot have outdoor burning at all anymore. Has that gone into effect?
No, yeah, we adopted short-term rental changes.
Little pits.
Mayor, that will be going into effect on April 1.
Okay,
April 1, yeah, we just
April 1,
adopted
yeah,
it.
okay.
That'll be
yeah.
April 1st.
Okay,
And we're going to be
April 1st.
communicating that next week to the world.
So
through our normal
short-term
channels.
rentals, you can't have any kind of outdoor fire at the house?
Campfire with
It-
wood, but
the,
you can't have propane.
Sir, yes, the ordinance does ban outdoor burning, so that would be a fire pit or campfire. With that, it does not restrict grills.
Okay, so if you have a fire pit that's gas, can you have it?
Yeah. You can't have a gas fire pit?
Not
Yes, sir.
Oh, not a short-term rental?
Short-term rental.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
And in level 2, the gas, open flames are not allowed, just gas grills for
Just
cooking.
gas grills.
Right, okay.
Okay, and that metric, the decision came off of moisture, wind,
The temperatures.
the
expected,
temperatures,
Yeah, everything.
relative humidity, all of that. So we're in level 2.
Correct.
Now, the forestry's,
And our level 2 is pretty much their level 1.
except for it's confusing. And we've talked about this for years, but we have a more restrictive fire code in the village than the county does. So go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, so yes, we are entering into stage 1 fire restrictions. Sorry, thank you. So under that, and that's due to dry field conditions. I know I sent you last week what our stage 1 was going into, and that's what we were looking at. It is confusing, the difference in in how we communicate, and we're working on that, I think, to try to speak the same language, because it is confusing to the public when you see the Forest Service having one sort of rating versus, the town having a.
So it's your level 1 is no smoking.
Yep, so yes, so we got, means fires, campfires, charcoal grills, and coal and wood stoves are allowed only in developed campsites and picnic areas,
Okay.
which most are closed right now anyways. And where agency-built fire rings or grills are provided for use. So those are the big ones for us.
So if you have a ring at the campsite, you can have a fire?
Yes.
Okay.
So when they open up Cedar Creek for Easter and stuff, then.
So any dispersed camping, any of that kind of stuff, not permissible.
Okay.
Which is a lot of areas here.
Yeah, it's a lot of them. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I know the county, and saw the county commissioner come in. Would you stand up there, please, Michael Chavez, MP Chavez? Thanks for showing up. We love it when we have county folks, and we work really well with MP Michael on different things. And I believe the county's going to be looking at fire restrictions coming up. Yeah, on the 18th. So we appreciate it. I know it's not going to make people happy, but we've learned what happens.
Right, and I guess I should add too that smoking is allowed, but only in vehicles, not out.
What about smoking weed? Is that okay?
Of course.
I mean, it's a serious question. You're in New Mexico.
I know. Not on the fence
No.
side.
No, the answer is no. You can't smoke period.
No.
Outside. Okay. Is there anything else you need, Chief? Anybody have any questions? Thanks, Chief. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Amanda, for
Thanks,
being a good
Amanda.
sport. We never try to embarrass you. We just want you to feel like one of us, so.
No, but I do, since I'm up here.
Yes.
We did get $124 million in disaster recovery funds, so we're gonna be looking to you all in the community to, partnerships, contractors that you guys have found,
Some of the thinning money and.
yeah,
management.
so to work together to get some stuff done. So
Excellent. Now we can just get state.
Before you leave, if I can, because I asked the other day about the clearing that was done there at Warrior and Gavilan Canyon.
About the high school?
Uh-huh.
Your guys' crews were in there how did that happen?
How did that happen?
Yeah,
How did
as
they-
in, because I think the forest is on the other side.
Mhm.
I was just curious.
So who paid for it?
Yeah,
Oh.
it was great. I mean,
Yeah.
but.
Good question.
We just wanna-
I'll ask. I'll check
Okay.
into it. I'll check into
Yeah,
it.
we just want to get on the list.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I'll look into it and I'll
All right,
get it back to you.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Amanda.
you. I'm glad she's a good sport. Okay, and we'll go into the manager's report. Ronald?
All right, Mayor and Council, our first update is from Rick Lamb. He's the Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club of Chavez and Lincoln Counties. It's been a few months since he's been here. We welcome you again, and also a great partner of the village, and they also house at the Horton Complex. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys. Mayor, councilors, thank you so much for having me. First and foremost, I want to kind of give a shout out. When the fires and the floods happened, the employees at the Boys and Girls Club worked really, really hard. About a week and a half after the fires happened, they were back in there, even with everything that was going on. They were back in the club and giving parents a place for their kids to come if they needed a place. On top of that, too, when the floods started coming as well, there were employees that actually were at the club for quite a while, even after kids got picked up, because it was one of those things where once it hit their phone, that's when they started calling parents. So some of the employees had flooded out areas where they couldn't even get home, and so they stuck around at the club. And so I really wanted to make sure that the village knew that they worked really, really hard to make sure that the kids had a place to go when all of those things were going on. At this point in time, we have about 60 kids. We're pretty much at max capacity, and it really comes down to just employees. Ron gave me a call last week, and he asked, in February, we had unfortunately closed a few extra days than we would like to. And it came down to employees. We had employees that just no showed, no called, and, employee turnovers, different things like that. So I've sat down and we are revamping some different things. We're looking at hours. We're looking at bringing in some different employees as well. So when people do call in sick, we are able to cover those. And it's not such a burden on the parents and having to figure out how to pick up their kids, and how to get them taken care of, and allowing them to do their jobs and be at work and do the things that they need to do, because that's what we're supposed to be here for. And of course, I do want to apologize to you guys. Usually I like to have a nice presentation out. Unfortunately, with some of the things that have happened, I was not able to get to that. The positive thing is Ron and I were talking, and you guys get to see my ugly face a couple times a year now. And so we should be seeing more pictures of the kids and kind of what's going on. But I do want to let you know some of the different programs that we've had. Some of them are the same. There's some staples that we use at Boys and Girls Club. But we've also brought in some different programs that make things a lot more fun. And so, of course, some of the same ones, Triple Play, this is a health education program, mind, body, soul. We want to teach you about being healthy. We want to help you learn ways of being active outside of the normal going out and shooting some hoops, which I definitely have no problems with, but not everybody likes to shoot hoops or throw a football, and so we want to give them some different options to go from there. We have different programs like Smart Moves, where it's a preventative program, and help them learn how to deal with bullies, learn how to deal with the peer pressures that you start getting into as you get older when it comes to alcohol and those sorts of things, and how to say no. We've also brought in some different ones though too. There's a program that came that's in Roswell, and I was able to bring it up here with some collaboration. It's called Wings for Life, and it's a resiliency program. It's a phenomenal program. It's doing a really good job in Roswell, and it helps them to truly find happiness in what they're doing and build resiliencies through different parts of life. Resiliency is a huge part of how we are as adults, and we want to start them off young. And so we were able to bring this up, and it has done some massively fun things for the kids, and we've seen some really cool positive changes that have happened with that as well, which has been just a huge blessing to see across the board. Of course, we continue to work with a program called Clever Crazes. This was a fun one that we found. Kids get a lot of really cool things out of this. So not only are they online and they're doing all kinds of different things like science, technology, reading, all of these fun things, but they're earning stuff out of it as well. So every time they get on and they play these games, and they learn these different things, they have opportunities to win $10 gift cards, which happens all the time. We've had kids win tennis shoes. We've had kids win backpacks. We've had kids win sweatshirts and hoodies just by playing a game. And so it's been a huge fun thing for the kids. They love getting on there, and they really do. They have won some really, really cool
What kind of
things.
game is it?
So it's all about, what they've done is they've taken stuff like science and math and technology and reading, and they've turned them into different types of games. I can't tell you exactly how they do the game specifically. I haven't been on them enough to know true details. But all they have to do is just go on and play. And they play these different games, and once they get successful at one area, then they move up and they continue to move. And Clever Crazes is the national organization that tracks all of these things. And the top certain percentage each week or each month or each quarter or even each year have the ability to get all of these different prizes. And so we've probably seen in the last year and a half, 5 or 6 backpacks come through. We've had probably 3 or 4 kids win new pairs of tennis shoes, and I could probably say a few $100s worth of gift cards have also come through as well. So it has been a really fun program for the kids, and like I said, an easy incentive for them to be able to just continue to learn.
It's called Clever
Crazes.
What are your hours of operation?
So during the school year, when school is going on, we are open from as soon as school gets out till 6 p.m. Even for all days, like spring break is going on this week, and so we're open from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We give them, a small little breakfast in the morning. We feed them lunch, and then of course we do an afternoon snack and everything as well. And then during the summertime, we're open from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. We found in the summer pretty much all the kids are picked up from 5:30, so it didn't make sense to stay open that extra 30 minutes. But same thing there. We're giving them a small breakfast, we're giving them lunch, we're giving them a snack and everything. And we are a licensed facility too. So approximately 80 to 85% of all the kids that come to the club, they don't pay a dime.
Does the schools did away with their after-school program?
Honestly, I don't know for certain.
Do you know, Susan? And then
They did?
They did. And Mr. Lamb, a last question, where do you get your funding?
We get our funding from a couple different places, of course, being licensed. We get funding from the state that way. We have grants that come through. There's different fundraisers. I haven't really been able to set up a whole lot in Ruidoso just yet, but we've had different fundraisers in Roswell that have been able to help out. Donations and things like that help as well. And then those small few parents that do are outside of the licensing criteria, their payments also go towards that as well, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Rick, we talked about the last time you were here during snow days.
Mm-hmm.
Are you staying open with the snow days?
So really, we've come to a conclusion that if the school is ultimately feeling that we need to be closed, or that they need to be closed, then we're going to be closed. And it really comes down to the staff just not being able to make it to the clubs and us being effectively able to be there. One of the things with being a licensed facility, and even Boys and Girls Club, is we have a ratio that we have to meet. Being a licensed facility, it's a 1 to 15 ratio. So for every 15 kids, we have to have at least one adult there. And it just makes it very, very difficult right now to make sure that we've got enough staff and to safely take care of those kids.
It's just very hard because, the businesses do not close.
I understand.
And okay, so the teachers aren't going to be there and the kids at school, but there's no place for the business people to take their children.
Yeah.
And so that's the only thing, working in the bank for all those years, we had a lot of kids at the bank because the mothers didn't have any place to take their kids.
Yeah, and it's something that we're always looking at. It's not, this isn't we've made a decision and we walk away. We're constantly evaluating these things and seeing what we can do. But it really comes down to, are we able to successfully get employees there and meet those minimum ratios? And it's very difficult to do that. And so that's where we sit.
It is a business.
Yep.
And all the other businesses are open, yep, you're there
I
no matter
understand.
what. So,
I understand.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it all comes down to having people to do it. So, is there a big difference between your employee base here and in Roswell?
Not really.
That same, you have a shortage there too?
Yeah, we still got a shortage there and everything. We actually had some key positions over the last month or so that vacated in one way or another. And so we've also done a little restructuring over the last couple weeks too, to kind of help with some of that. And it's helping with being able to get employees to have some longer hours. And, we've looked at, every year we look at pay and, are we substantially paying them a decent enough wage to do the job that we're asking them to do? So these are things that we're constantly looking at. I know that even our part-time employees have been moved up in hours, which is hopefully going to help keep people around for a longer period of time.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
You guys have a blessed day.
You bet. And I know that we've been talking a lot with Region 9 too, Brian Dooley and those guys about having an after program.
School program.
Mm-hmm. So
Mayor-
Bobby's not coming?
Mayor and council, well, we have given us an update on the clean and lean properties is going to be Alex Koenig and Stephanie Warren. And Alex has been working closely with Bobby Simpson, so.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time on this. We do have a brief presentation that we're going to go through. So I also used what Bobby prepared when he was back in front of you back in the fall of last year. So we in code enforcement are going to work more closely together to improve the property maintenance issues here in the village, with separating out responsibilities and supporting each other to capitalize on our strengths. With that, so code enforcement is going to continue to follow the complaints that come up through normal course of business, I guess. Verify complaints, send out those initial notice of violations through regular mail, and if there's no response to that, follow up with certified mail, and then to submit the municipal court complaint. Ignore that last part on there. Like I mentioned, this was Bobby's presentation back in the fall, and I didn't edit very well on that. So the community development will continue to address building issues, building permitting issues through the red tag process. If there's someone that is out there that is doing work without a permit illegally, we'll have our inspectors out there doing the red tag program on that. Community development does have the tools and staffing best suited to bring the properties in compliance through issues needing building permits, so through the building permitting and review process there. And then we'll also take the lead on these presentations to council for the clean energy program and the management of that as well. So onto the specific properties in no real particular order, would say. So the first one would be 215 Hart. This property, the council brought to our attention on there. It has changed ownership and been brought into compliance with a new and cooperative owner. We will again, of course, continue to monitor that situation to be sure they stay on the track. Next one, 100 Nogal. Council has required this property to be declared a nuisance, required to be brought into compliance. The siding and securing the structure has been completed. They are working on a new roof, and we will continue to encourage them to continue.
Thought they already
to make
put a new
progress
roof
there.
on it. This is one you've been working with all the time? That we've been working with for 14 years, yeah. And so now we're putting the hammer down, so,
Yeah, we will continue.
I do have,
okay.
so on that, I know that the Village of Ruidoso did some of that work.
Correct,
So
yes.
when do they start paying us back?
They have 4 years.
4 years, okay. Do you put them on a payment plan or just say in 4 years? I mean, you can start paying now, but in 4 years it has to be paid off.
The lien has been filed and it does have a 4-year term, so.
Okay, that's right.
getting
We do
about
have- we
three
have
and a
a
half
lien.
years in, if no payment has been received or remediated, we can start,
foreclosing.
The foreclosure.
And that's what Zach will do.
Okay.
Because there's been history in the past where the village forgot about it. So you have a time limit. So we've got them all set up that we do enforce, that if we clean it, pay for it, then we do enforce the lien.
Okay,
And you have 4 years.
thank you.
Okay?
And so with that, we'll be happy to have some guidance if you do wish for us to do something different at that point, yeah. So, next property would be 205 Swallow. This property, we understand, has a new local buyer, and the closing was to happen by the end of February. We will again continue to work with those new owners to bring this property into compliance. Then the next one, 116 No Gal. This property is back into compliance. They do have a local agent that is visiting the site to be sure that things are as they need to be, being maintained for trees, weeds, and grasses. Also, again, we will be sure that we keep after this property as well. 1116 Sudderth, the pink building.
Thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
been years.
We have a vacant building in place. We have an owner there that is making steady progress on improvements. They are getting the permits for the work that they are doing for the remodeling there. We will also continue to work with this owner to continue the progress that they are making.
What are they gonna do with that property?
It's a commercial office building.
That's one of those that I keep an eye on, and Mayor, if I may, right next to it now, the building going back.
Used to be the old ice house. I think.
Yeah, the white portion, it's graffitied up like crazy. So we might need to add that to the list or into that if it is not already there.
That pink building, that used to be a restaurant.
It did.
It was a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
With that, when you say graffiti, I noticed there were other buildings in town that got hit with graffiti. How do we manage that? Does the property owner have to take that off in a certain amount of time, or how do we manage that?
Typically, code enforcement does reach out to the property owners, let them know that it needs to be remediated. I do think that there may be some outsourcing to reach out to that they can come by and put a quick slab of paint on.
Like juvenile justice,
And
they'll,
I think T-Bone had something at one
Yeah.
time, didn't he? Is that, am I talking outside of my head? Okay.
Yeah.
juvenile justice, these kids that are in an
I
alternative.
can't remember the
They
exact.
did my building, I don't know how many times.
It was right on,
Okay.
it was before Midtown, it was at it used to be the Five Pines Trading,
Okay,
and then it was Mel's Motors,
okay.
but that's been remediated finally.
Thank you.
And I've taken down those notes, and if we need to address a more formalized process for graffiti abatement, we'll take that in consideration. Next would be 109 South Hickory. There was a structure fire, November of 2023 here. It's in our municipal court system right now. The owner has been wanting to salvage a portion of that structure. The court referred them to the Building Permitting Inspection Department. We have not had any contact with the property owner on that. So then after 90 days from this date, we will be moving to submit to the council to do.
And it's still a mess.
On that.
Those
property.
neighbors are having to.
154 Spruce, this property is boarded up and generally secured. It isn't currently involved in a civil dispute. Code enforcement is going to be sending another letter to have the owners obtain the vacant building permit to take care of that one.
Vaughn, you don't have a picture on that one?
I do have a picture on that one. Strange.
Yep, we got it.
It hasn't changed much in the last few months, unfortunately.
So it's still in a civil dispute?
Yeah, it is still in a civil.
How does that affect us on clean and lean? We don't care if they're fighting over it. So you keep track of the times and then whatever we've got to do to make sure that it's secure. Sounds like it's secure.
It is.
But then when you got other people that are cleaning their properties in defensible space, we want to make sure this one is up to it.
Correct.
And then we can get in on it.
114 Davis was an issue before the South Fork fire. That structure was destroyed during the fire. They are cleaning it up, and so, and before there's any additional action taken on that, we will wait for that process with the cleanup to finish up.
What would be the additional on the cleanup? This was lost in the fire.
Yeah.
And so they could have signed up to had all that debris removed.
Yeah, they could have contacted DRC and should have just went through the department.
Can we not contact them and let them know, Mike?
No.
There's actually going to be one more slide that they're going to touch on. They'll hit up all of these properties.
Okay.
Okay, that'd be the best thing to do.
103 Delmar, there was a permit issued back in April of last year for a building addition. At this point in time, no inspections have been requested or made. There is work that is happening there. We are continuing to monitor and follow up to be sure that they are in compliance with codes. 202 Brady Canyon. This is a property that also has been on the list for a bit. It is vacant, secured, but without a vacant building permit. It is likely to be in a flood hazard area, and I believe it was relocated during the floods, from the flood waters.
What do you mean? It's been moved?
It's been moved off its foundation from where it is. Yes, so, yes, it has not been removed at this point in time. So
By the
we'll-
flood?
Yeah, yes. And then so that is, it's.
Well, it seems like that's another one. Okay, go ahead.
616 Sudderth. This property does see some progress, but also some backsliding. Code enforcement is
the old,
continuing to use their process
Radio Shack, we're right next to it.
to bring it into compliance. They have a relationship with code enforcement, and they do seem to be a willing property owner. Again, we'll continue to monitor this to be sure that they continue to make forward progress.
I thought it was Blake's Restaurants owned that property.
That's the, vacant
Oh,
lot.
I'm on the other
next
side?
door. Yeah, so you're looking.
Oh, at the
you're
gas
at
station.
the vacant lot, and then it goes Therapy Associates, and then it goes the Old Rich's Gas. This is the Old Rich's Gas property.
And I thought that was purchased last year.
It's gone through different hands. I'm not really sure who's the exact property owner at this point. It is being inhabited by a local, landscaping company.
Right. Okay.
210 Barkus, another structure fire. They have applied for a vacant building permit. However, that has not been issued because they need to repair a hole in the roof before that structure can be deemed compliant. Also, another property dispute between siblings. We will continue to work with these folks as we can and give them some time to get that done. However, I do believe that we will also, if need be, moving forward to the abatement process.
Yeah, just keep your timeline going.
Yep. I think our last one, 205 Spring. This is former Boy Scout property, as I understand it. The most recent owner is now deceased. It has gone through probate, awaiting the final paperwork for the dispersal. Would be a 50-50 ownership by two brothers. Code enforcement is working with the son/nephew of those owners and he has a plan to either bring the property into compliance with his father and uncle as the owner, or it would be transferred to him as a single owner to bring the property into compliance. And we will be working with code enforcement to be sure that they have either a plan forward to get to vacant building permit issued, or for the removal of structures to be submitted by the end of this month or the early part of April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it secured though? Last time I was over there, the front door was kicked in.
We will be sure that we make sure that it is secured.
And that's right over there in that neighborhood.
Last I saw, the door was resecured.
Okay.
So as Mr. Martinez indicated, we do have this last slide of going forward. Again, we're going to continue to formalize our relationship with code enforcement to be sure that we do the best we can to manage these properties so that we get them into compliance. We will make quarterly presentations to the council, if that is your wish as well. so that we can make sure that we keep you and the community updated as what we will do. As Michael also said, we need to establish an enforcement policy for properties that have not participated in the PPDR program as well. So there, like he said, that we will be sending out sort of a last announcement of the program is available. This is your last chance to get involved, but we'll be coming back to you for guidance, direction upon when we need to start some kind of enforcement action upon those folks that have not either cleaned it up on their own or using the state program to do so. Also, we'll need to work on a better process, formal process for identifying the properties through the Clean and Lean program and how we need to move forward with those. And also work on continuing education between departments and also with the community and property owners on property maintenance. Any additional questions that you have or properties at this point in time that we've missed that would you like us to devote some attention to?
Well, we have another burned out house over here that's been sitting vacant and that some of the neighbors have called, so I'll get with you on that one. Just want to keep an eye on No Gal, that 100, that one is getting close. I mean, I just want to make sure we're staying on that one because 14 years, I'm not very sharp, but I think it got the wool pulled over our eyes a few times.
No, yes, sir, Mayor and Council. So because we put the lien on that property, they do have the 4 years to pay us back. But what we've done is that within that time frame, they have to show continuous improvement.
Right.
The continuous improvement is when they make changes or as they make changes to the house. So he's been making, the last two items were the chimney and the roof. Prior to a couple months ago, he had just resheeted the roof, so that's the most updated change. They're finalizing the chimney, and so once that's completed, he really should show progress on the roof over the next year. If he doesn't, then we'll have to act to actually fix that as well. We've got to be careful though, because we have 4 years on the siding. If we spend the money on the roof, then we may get caught in between an issue where we'll foreclose on the house and we may not be able to capture the money we put on the roof. So we just want to make sure we're not going to hurt ourselves financially.
Mayor, question for Zach. How does our lien work in conjunction with the county for property taxes? Are they ahead of us or?
I think all tax encumbrances are ahead, and then I think we come right after that. But I'll have to look at the statute, but it's clear in the statute.
So in the event the county were to pursue foreclosure, would we have to pay them to keep our lien in place?
If they filed a foreclosure on the taxes, they would do a title search and see our lien, and then they would name us as defendants in the.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I got a question, Mayor.
Yes, sir, Joe.
Just following up on the fire and the properties that have been even started to be cleaned up. Was there any kind of a schedule in place to identify those properties, whether it be from the meter readers going out and identifying such areas, and then the time frame of sending out notifications to these different property owners?
Yes, sir, Mayor and Councilmember Eby. So on the initial stages of the fire, one of the first things that we did is we rounded up most of our team. They actually did inspections out on homes. They were doing the FEMA inspection paperwork, and what that does is it identifies whether a structure is impacted, I forget the 4 categories now, but it classified those 4 categories. So that's where we initially got those house counts that you were first getting updated on how many structures we had lost, what the cost would have been. And so with that information, we then turned that over to the state at DHSCM. Once DHSCM had that property or that list, PPDR actually went out, contacted those individuals and said, would you like to sign up? And so that's how that initial 720 homes got on that first list. They've actually completed all of those homes. And so PPDR as of today is technically over. It doesn't have an end date, but that's why we want to send out this last push, get onto the list,
sign up for PPDR so that we can go ahead.
Personal property debris removal.
Yes, personal property debris removal. And once that's done, then that'll be that last kind of push for cleaning. As the team mentioned, if they don't clean or get on that list, then we will go per your direction, then we'll start looking at a process for clean and lean on those homes. Obviously, the individuals that were impacted by both fire and flood, we want to try and get them involved as many services as possible. But if they're not cleaning, we are getting calls from neighbors that are now saying, hey, this property is junked out, there's flood debris on here, how can we get it picked up? Why won't they register? And so it may be the case that it's a second home. It may be the case that it's in litigation with other family members. There's multiple factors as to why we can't get in touch with them. But at that point, we do need to start moving forward and cleaning those properties.
On the clean and lean?
Yes, sir.
Now, we've discussed this many times and trying to find out, is there any way for us to get in line on the PPDR money?
So we are actually.
So then it would be better for everybody.
Yes. So we are taking a call on Thursday to have that same discussion. So it was brought up to us that in Colorado, in California, and in one other state, I can't recall the third, I think it was Florida, there has been discussions of basically forcing people into the PPDR program that haven't responded. From what I understand, there has to be a declaration by a judge that it is a nuisance property. So we would update our nuisance property ordinance. That would have to come to council, and then it would actually have to go to a judge. Now, we're going to have that call to see if there's any other items that would have to move forward, or if we can even do it in New Mexico. If we can, we would bring that process back to you all.
Okay. Because, I mean, we're still trying to protect personal property. But there's just some folks that do not have the wherewithal to fix it, and so they evade us.
Yes, sir.
And so we need to figure out how do we do that, and it would be nice if we could get on that PPDR to get us paid, and then it would not have an additional burden on the homeowner.
And the way I understand that program works is exactly as you just said, Mayor. PPDR would act, the private property debris removal program would come in, they would pick it up, and because it was declared a nuisance, or because whatever the designation is, they would be able to pay for it because it was part of the disaster, and we wouldn't have to spend any funds.
Okay, and that'll come through DHSEM, which is Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management?
Yes, sir.
So that would come through them?
That would come through them, and we're going to have that call with them on Thursday.
Because I know we run into these things periodically, and you guys are really good about working through them and finding out the funding sources, so appreciate that.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Michael, under that scenario with court action, which court would have jurisdiction?
Mayor, Councilor Jackson, I'm honestly not sure. That's why we want to take the call and see how it would go. I'm assuming it would probably be your local jurisdiction. If it has to go to Mag Court, we'll identify that, but I don't think it would go there. But that's why we want to have the call to see what's eligible and what's not.
Because currently, the municipal judge can fine $500 a day, and if you don't have money, it doesn't help. It just compounds the issue. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to fix an issue, but not at the public's expense. How do we best manage it? And you guys are doing a great job. I just wish it always seems like before that last thing works, we almost hit the end of the road with DHSEM and FEMA, and we don't need to spell out FEMA's acronym, do we? Everybody knows that one. Okay, thank you, Michael. Thank you very much for everything you do.
Alex and Stephanie, thank you all for.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
And Mayor,
And some of these things they touched on will be on regular item number 1 on that 100-year floodplain, so that'll tie right into some of that.
perfect. And in conclusion, we had Municipal Day, the annual Municipal Day. We had a great turnout with all the council, the governing body there. And we also had some of the staff, so it's always great to go as a team up to Santa Fe, show the support for the village, so. And now 603 Meacham with Mike and Michael and Levi.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this.
But this one's the one that's been doing all the heavy lifting, so I want to make sure he's also in front of you all. So 603 Meacham, for the most part,
where we're at today is finalizing all of the utilities. We still have P&M moving forward. Their pads, high level are still going on, and obviously some of the landscaping and the fencing. But I'm going to let Levi go into detail on some of that, just to let you know where we're at, what we're doing, and timelines as far as when we should be finished.
Is this your first time at council, Levi?
Second, when I
You're
got
actually
hired, I think. Yes, sir.
It's different being number one than number two, isn't it? So we got all 10 homes in.
Yes, sir. All 10 homes are set. They are working on the insides of those homes, finishing them out, touching up the cracks, in the sheetrock and stuff from hauling them, doing the flooring. I spoke with the home spot this morning, so it'll take them about a week per house to do those, to finish out the insides. He also has the block layer working on the last 2 homes, laying the block around the outsides of the houses. But that's definitely moving. All of the water utilities are in. The gas is also in. The gas servicers are in. Sewer services are in. Sewer mains in. As Michael stated, we're still working with P&M through the easement process.
That's all buried.
Yes, sir. So, no, I think we should meet the May 15th deadline we had set.
So when will those units start to be occupied?
After May 15th.
So, Mayor and councilors,
I think your microphone.
Mayor and councilors, Councilor Corey, I think May 15th is actually the date we're shooting for. Our concern is that there's 4 that are probably ready to go once electrical connects to them today. But because there's still big machinery, because there's still a lot of construction going on, we wouldn't want to put people in that scenario. So definitely want them all to be done first. And so we're shooting for that May timeframe.
The road will go in last?
Yes, sir. So it'll be millings.
So there's, Mayor, there's 10 modular units, and then how many other structures do we have? 3?
There's 3 other structures. Yes, sir. There's the rock house and then the 2 cabins that are on site currently.
Which we're planning on painting the other 2 to match the existing with the new ones.
Yes, sir.
And we already have the pad sites for the 10 by 10s.
The pad sites are not done. The locations.
Storage units?
Yeah, they'll be for storage.
Yes, sir. And the home spot is gonna do those pads for us. The pads are not built yet, but when they start backfilling around each of the homes, they'll go ahead and do those pads at that time.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
No, I'd sure like to go inside.
Yeah.
So, Mayor and Council, the first 2 units are ready to go. It's a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. Whenever you all want to get ready to go, just let us know, or we can set up a time for everyone to go see them, if you'd like to do that. So whatever.
Would you make sure, I know we're going to have opening house on all these soon, when we get them open May, that they put down plastic and that walkboard, that, it's that real thick cardboard.
Yes,
You can still see that, but we don't need a bunch of people tromping through there when we're getting ready. Because I want a lot of people to see what we're talking about, because these are nice.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they are.
They're pretty nice.
Yes, sir. No, we'll have them do that. And then just let us know when you all would want to go. If it's individually or as a group, we can set up either one.
Because it does get muddy over there until they get that road in.
And then we're going to go out for bid for the bushes, the
Landscaping.
So Levi's actually in the process of working on landscaping. We originally did a bid. The bid was non-responsive. And so what we're trying to do now is actually tweak the scope of work a little bit, just so that we can give some of the contractors a little bit better idea of a minimum that we're looking for. And we should hopefully have some quotes back here in the next couple of weeks to take a look at that.
Oh, okay.
But so you get an idea, roughly 10 by 10, Levi's kind of worked through most of this on the details, but 10 by 10 around the homes is really what you're going to get xeriscaped. You'll get your bushes, shrubs, and some trees within that area. We're not going to go with irrigation. And it'll also address the walkways from parking back to the facility itself.
Okay. And have we done any studies on that little vacant area that we had in there? We were looking at putting some playground equipment or something?
Not yet.
No, sir, not yet.
Okay.
They look
Anybody else?
great.
Okay. All right, well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you,
We're
gentlemen.
looking forward to that.
Mayor, and I'll stand for any additional questions.
Ron, question, I know there's been some posts on social media about Two Rivers Park. What's happening over there?
Let me have Matthew, did he walk?
He walked
Oh,
out.
did he walk
Well,
away?
He gave us an update on the radio.
Yeah.
So there, go ahead, you can go, Michael.
Go ahead. And we're going to be on the pavilion, but go ahead.
So some of those items, we've presented for grant funding, so we're waiting on what will actually come back. But we're focusing on doing a pavilion specifically. We're switching it out to an open style with metal. In order to do that, we first have to bring down the current pavilion. And so we're waiting on all of that to get processed.
Are there two pavilions?
There's the bathroom area that's backed up to the pavilion, and then there's the freestanding pavilion that
That's
you
the
have.
one that came
Yes, sir.
down.
Yes, sir.
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, also the bridge, the pedestrian bridge.
Yes.
And applied for some grant funds to get all that done, so we're going to move forward with it, so.
We're also waiting on some funding specifically for the playground. And so through all of that, we want to get Two Rivers upgraded back to where it was at.
Anybody else?
I believe the playground's going on the other side of the river, right? Behind the chamber area?
I didn't hear that.
I didn't either.
Not that I know of. It should be going in the same location. That's the way that the funding will end up reimbursing us for it through the public assistance side. I do know that we had originally talked about possibly moving the pavilion over to the other side.
That's what I was
Yes, sir.
thinking of, the pavilion over there.
Yes, sir. There was some discussion about possibly moving it to that location, but it seemed better fit on where it's currently at to be replaced.
In Mayor Crawford and council, on the insurance side, the only thing they would pay for is actually the demo of the old pavilion. They wouldn't do any rebuilding, or you couldn't on a new structure, so only on the demo if we want to submit a claim, but we're waiting on this grant funding. But one way or another, we'll get it done.
Okay, because we still have the new electric pump that goes in there that got wiped out during the.
That's correct, yes, we're waiting on a new motor for that, so, yes.
Okay. And then next month, we'll talk about the Anaconda line, when we're going to get the new one put in and get it buried. Finally. It's only been a few years. Okay, anybody else? Thank you, Michael. And remind me to ask you about signage for Humane Society. They didn't bring it up, but they just texted me for it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go into reports from municipal officials. Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to go?
Sure. Since we gave that award to our senior volunteer program, I wanted to show off what they give you for volunteering at the annual banquet, which comes in May. I think
Yes.
this year it's in April. This is one of the gifts they give. But, of course, this is my wife's. I always steal her stuff because she volunteers at the food bank. But again, Mayor, we appreciate all the volunteers that come out and help out, and especially with the cleanups that's coming up next month for Keep America Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's something that's much needed right now in the community, just to bring community together so that way we can keep moving forward in a positive way. I had a good day at the Municipal Day up in Santa Fe. We had a good turnout. I was very happy to see all of us up there and, showing that support for how other communities could see the networking that we could do to help each other on all fronts. The only other thing that I have is that I saw these wildfire prevention sheets. Are we going to talk about these or?
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Salas, we met with P&M yesterday, and they provided us some literature on that, so that was, but we're working on a plan on that. Mike had some staff members and working on doing on the shut-offs and things like that, just getting the word out. Communication is what we're working on.
Okay.
And we've reached out to internet providers, the cell phone providers, because you lose one, you lose the other. And about the forecasting of it, getting a count of the people that are on dialysis, home oxygen, to make sure they've got a secondary outlet. But the main thing is let people know that it could happen and they need to be planning.
Yes, sir.
And go ahead, you got a few things to say on that?
Yes, sir. So, as Ron mentioned, yesterday, we did meet with PNM. PNM had been making the rounds throughout the community, meeting with individual entities, from the school districts to us, county. I know they were in the downs for their meeting at the end of the day. Basically, they were just updating that sheet, kind of gives an internal component on how communications are going to be drafted, and how we're going to be reaching out to the other public entities and to our residents. And basically just letting them know that there's a possibility that these can happen, and that we want to make sure that we're ready. Eric is actually getting ready to work on some language to share with them as well, in case of a PSPS, what you should have, whether that's make sure you're ready for 24 to 48 hours, have food, have water, have those kinds of items. If it's cold, what the village will be doing, whether it's a resiliency center during the day. So those are going to be things like where you can come in and charge your phones or your iPads, and then you can go ahead and do what you need to do. And if there's a transition and it's longer and it's cold nights and people don't have heat, we transition into that kind of shelter component and where Red Cross steps in. So those are all of the components that we've been focusing on. The village will be meeting with local business leadership here in the next couple of days. We'll also be meeting with our current partners, the hospital, ENMU, most of those entities, and have those stakeholder meetings on how we work together as we move forward through this as well, so.
And Mayor and Council, also, we talked about our newsletter, about every month providing an article on our newsletter, and also doing public service announcements on our radio station. So we're going to work with them on all that.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Madam?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm looking for some volunteers. We are, in October, we opened our Wingfield Heritage House Museum, and now we're ready to get the Friends of Wingfield House, Heritage House Museum going. So this Thursday, 10 a.m. at the library, we have called out people who would like to volunteer, money-making, be on the board, the Friends Board, just to come out and us talk about it.
You have a 501c3.
We do. And so we need to have two boards. We need, your board, which is the Natural and Historical Board. We would be working with the Friends of the museum. So I think this would be a very fun place to volunteer. We do have a new exhibit. We have new postcards of old-timey Ruidoso in Lincoln County. Denny's McCoy donated a whole bunch of postcards. And Denny's. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really good. So Stephanie and Jamie are always on the lookout. We work in the museum. So that's what we're looking for this Thursday at 10 a.m. at the library.
Okay, and you should go out there. That's a good thing to do. If you want to do something, meet some good people, it's really good. But don't you leave just yet. I forgot to talk about silt. Go ahead, Joseph.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Well, of course, we attended the New Mexico Municipal League at the end of last month. I believe that all the governing body was there. That's a very, just say, useful organization for all of the municipalities, looking out not only for their autonomy, but also for any bottom line as far as the negative effects or positive effects of reform in the state statutes. And a shout out to the fire department for getting out a couple of fires that many people didn't even know happened. And it's a good thing that they were there, because they could have been very, very detrimental to the village with the high winds that were experienced during that time. And the Hope Harbor fundraiser was a good event. That was a very, I would say, very needed program that's in this community, Capitan, and that it's impacting lives. So anytime there's an opportunity to support that, of course, I'm there to support it. And I know that Rifle is there because he's very well involved with that. This last week, I attended the forum from the Wildfire Forum that was held at ENMU. Commissioner Chavez was there along with Commissioner Fisher. And with the wildfires that have been happening here in town for the last couple of years and over the past history of Ruidoso, it was really not that well attended, which had a lot of good information from the firefighters, from how the fire is analyzed, what different teams are called in and why they're called in, what their responsibilities are, and their approach to fighting wildfires. Also, Dick Cook made a presentation on our WUI, our wildlife interface with our defensible space. Still, and then the lady that, she came and made a presentation to the council. She's with Farmers Insurance. But she made a presentation also. Sad to say that she had to sell her business in Alamogordo in her house so that she could concentrate on Ruidoso, simply because her insurance company was hit pretty hard because of the fires. But what I came out of that presentation is that, coupled with all of the different firefighting and also with the defensible space, and you partner that kind of with the insurances, she was showing us the different restrictions or different elements that are being put in place by the different insurance companies in order for people to acquire fire insurance. And there's certain things, like I never heard of one where you have a deck and you're required to put flashing between your deck and your home, different measures. So with that, I'd like to take the opportunity to express that possibly we might be looking at with Dick Cook, with the code enforcement, and looking at the different restrictions that, or requirements that insurance companies are going to be putting upon people in this area in order to obtain fire insurance, to look at that, and maybe we might have to do a little tweaking on our building codes, because what good's a brand new building if they can't get fire insurance? But it's something that we might want to look at for future reference and just say the viability of the community. And it could very well help structures to survive a fire, because Dick, in his presentation, was showing different instances where you had no vegetation burned around the home, but it was most likely caused by ember shower, and some of those might have been prevented by maybe some of these new restrictions or.
Well, they can help, but if we don't get the forest thinned and maintained.
That too, that also.
That's the whole point. It's a big piece that all has to work together, so that's why it's pushed all together. But all the hardening and thing that Dick's talking about, you're talking about, we'll have to implement those too.
Take a look at them.
And it's money, because now then, just taking down a tree used to not be that expensive, but now then, they're rolling them out. They're just these smaller ones, they're wanting $500-600 a piece. And people can't afford all that, so we're having to make changes, okay? Anything else?
Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Councilor Hooker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to say, report from the business side of things, the village is definitely active. There's been a lot of people in town. It's been good. A lot of, nothing but positive from our visitors that come and spend their time and money here in the village. And then also, I got to be Dr. Seuss at the library last week. It was a lot of fun,
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what's it like being a soap magnate?
I tell you, it's, and I know there's a lot of people going like, what is he talking about?
slippery slope?
It is. No, my wife and I bought the soap store in Midtown in January, and it's been a new adventure for us, and so that's why he's given me the good times about that. But it's great. Thank you.
Soap magnate.
His name is Mr. Clean.
Yeah, Mr. Clean. He did shave his beard off.
Yep.
So the beard sales, soaps are.
I know.
Yeah. Counselor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to do basically a summary and a shout out to both the mayor, the manager, as well as the deputy manager, and also Levi. When we talk about these grants, and I'll target 603 Meacham to begin with, I think we don't realize what the efforts are behind all that action. You're talking about a project that has been approved for some $4 million in grants. And I won't go into the weeds about which organizations contributed and the rest, but suffice it to say, it keeps us free and clear, yet it provides a remarkable benefit to everyone in the community, and it will target, I know this is a worn-out phrase, but workforce housing that really is that. And it's not just on a commercial platform. And to that end, I think also the Department of Commerce, the U.S. Department of Commerce recently supplied us with $2.3 million for road infrastructure. Everyone's interested in that for sure. And there was a matching grant that came through the Department of Finance Administration through the EDA, which is the Economic Development Administration, for some short of $500,000 as a match. And that is a lot of money, at least it is in my mind. And most of this is through the incredible efforts of those of the administration, the manager, the deputy manager, and Levi, who oversees all of the projects, not the capital projects, not just the one on Meacham. Also, I wanted to recognize the veterans. I was very impressed by the fact that although we're just the fiduciary agent, which means we watch the checkbook and make sure the monies are spent appropriately, and we thank you and finance for that. Because at Fort Stanton, they're going to have a remodel and renovation project, which I think will help that area tremendously since it's kind of laid fallow. They'll have a community center and possibly even housing, and it comes under the greater umbrella of Healing America's Heroes, and that's $450,000. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, Eddie does a great job over there, provides a great service at that Healing America's Heroes, and thank you.
Oh, one other thing, it wasn't on grants. I just wanted to clarify a little bit about LCMC, so I know a little bit. If under our.
Lincoln County Medical Center?
Correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure, because.
I'm the one that's always saying don't use mnemonics, and I stand corrected, but that big hospital as you drive out of town is on your right. As part of our Joint Commission requirements, which I was involved with for many years, we have to do a disaster preparedness as well, and we do table talk exercises with all sorts of scenarios, loss of power, that sort of thing. I just wanted to reinforce for the community that in the event of a power outage, that we often open and will open our doors to basically the rehab centers, so anyone requiring, say, oxygen and electricity to run their concentrators, which are a device you plug in and makes oxygen in your nose, or home dialysis units, which are essentially the same thing, only a little different project and for care. But those have always been available and will continue to be in the event of anything where we have declaration of disaster or even a power outage that is significant and threatening to the health and welfare, because it's part of what we do. And I think the chances of the hospital ever being shut down again will be only when Christ comes again, and that's all I got to say on that.
I'm still tabulating that last statement. Yeah, I'm trying to figure that one. Thank you, Jackson. All right, Commissioner Councilor Corey.
I've received a number of calls and emails the last couple of weeks, primarily about water-related issues, shutoffs and billings, and thanks to Ron and Adam for jumping on those and getting them resolved, as you always do. Also received some texts regarding the recent TDS outage. I share the mayor's frustration with the lack of communication that we get from TDS. We're literally in the dark. I know a lot of people were frustrated. They were on hold for over an hour trying to report an outage, and I wish there was something we could do to get them to be a little bit more responsive. Ron, thanks to the crew for getting the Alto Trail up and running again. I've heard good comments. And lastly, just wanted to recognize and honor the memory of Barbara Mader, who did so much for our community, and we mourn her passing. Thank you.
I hadn't heard that yet. Okay. I wanted Mike to stick around because we want to talk about the silt. And then before we go into the floodplain, we can talk about then and there or here too. So, but we are working on getting desilting, starting at the tribal reservation line all the way through Upper Canyon.
Yes, sir. So this is actually in almost every waterway that we can identify within village limits and also the county. And so what we've done is we've been working with NRCS. NRCS has been able to get permission to work within the river, which is the river channel, to desilt the river. In order to do that, they need to get what's called an ROE, or a right of entry. So we are asking residents, it's on social media, it's been online, there's a phone number, and people can email those applications in. We actually have a disaster coordinator that's here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 1 to 5 at Village Hall that can also assist with that walkthrough of signing up for the application. Once all of the right of entries are actually taken up within certain areas, then they would be able to, NRCS would be able to go into the river and desilt that silt and remove it from the area. And so if we can get enough of the right-of-ways or right-of-entries entered into, then we would be able to start cleaning the river as soon as we can. NRCS is currently working in the riverway now, either doing diversionary projects or some cleaning components of ROEs or where they've already obtained ROEs. And so this is a much larger project. And so what we ask village residents and homeowners and property owners is, if you know anyone by the river, on the river, please ask them to either get in contact with us. They can call my phone, they can call the main number, they can call NRCS, the number that they've been given, to start filling out those applications for right of entries. Once we collect all of them, we can start moving forward on that. And so
How many are we short? Bunch?
a bunch.
And we've been trying to get these for a while. I know Jennifer's working on some over there. We've got other people. And so my question is, if we can't get them all, then what's the next step?
So we're actively working with NRCS on a legal component. That legal component is, there's several, without getting in the weeds, there's an understanding that the river is actually an easement for the municipality. And so.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? We
So-
can't even get in it without getting a permit from everybody.
We were actively working with our team to see if that's a process that we can move forward on. If it is, then we would be the single entity that could sign off on that and allow NRCS into the rivers or those working right-of-ways that they consider the waterway to desilt as well. And so we're working with our legal teams on that to make sure that that would pass snuff, and if it does, we can start moving forward as well.
Who are we working with on that?
That's going to be with,
NRC?
no,
NRCS?
that's with, I just blanked.
The attorney?
Yes.
Gino?
Gino, yes. I'm
Mayor
sorry.
and
We need to
council,
put some more underlay on that, because I think that's where we're going. We can't get
yes,
a hold of those.
last week, we thought we had a plan in place when we spoke, I think it was last Tuesday.
Yeah.
We had Gino gave us a great, this is what you need to do. NRCS, their attorneys would not, they didn't feel comfortable with it, so that was a no.
But this new method is
Yes.
something we're going down.
We're going to continue
Since
on.
they're saying no, they should be able to give us what they're looking for.
They just do not, they're saying this work is voluntarily, it's not a mandatory, and that's the whole thing. Ours was gonna go in there and we're gonna do the work.
Well, the problem is we can't get hold of anybody.
Absolutely. It's a health and safety matter, and that's
And
what
what
we're
happens if
trying
you
to-
don't get that river desilted? As soon as you get one rain and it picks up, it just fills it, the other one's back in.
And so those are some of the arguments that are being made on the legal side. What's imminent threat? What's, when can we do work in the river? As several of y'all may remember, there was some imminent threat work that was done during the fires and the floods, which is what we were given permission for. And so that's the legal component that we're falling back on right now to see if we can move forward with that project.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor,
Yes.
so we can't just start it, we can't just go through the river with a backhoe?
Well, they just told us, they've been telling us it's your easement, so I was just going to get a big, get Mike over there on one of his big monsters and just start shoving this stuff out where we could get a
But-
truck in and haul it out.
But because we need the
Ease.
ROEs, because we need to get on their property to get the silt.
Yep.
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Letterman, and be reimbursed for it.
Yeah.
And for the funding agents and to pay for
Yes.
that.
That's the big,
That's the whole,
that is
yes,
the
that's
line
the
of
whole.
ointment right
Yep.
there.
Yeah.
And just for clarification, through NRCS, this is actually already paid for. So the monies are already been awarded. The state issued 12.5 million on a matching grant and passed it through on the county. So they are the formal sponsor. That is the funding that ends up getting grouped in with NRCS. So that's the $50 million that they've been using to do these diversionary projects. And so, yes, to your point, Councilor Letterman, we would need to get the ROE so that we could at least access the easement property so that we can start cleaning up and taking out.
You would think that the property owners would be chomping at the
I know we
bit to
just can't get a hold of them.
Yeah.
We got people that just don't respond. We'll get, just 1 second. Anything else? Because we're going to be talking about floodplain. We're going to have public input, so save it for that. Okay.
It was on the exact topic, I'm a homeowner on the river.
Okay.
And I was contacted once by Laura Goff
Uh-huh.
to fill out a form. I filled out a form, never heard a word back. Finally, I called, whatever the lady's name is, in Alamogordo, Tularosa with NRCS.
Morgan.
She said, yes, you're approved. Laura's gonna be getting in touch with you to sign papers, which nobody has explained
Yeah.
anything about.
Maybe that's some of our problem too.
Never heard a word. And I've got lots of neighbors that don't know what's going on, and I'm here today to find out.
Well, can we get your name and contact number before you leave? And then we will get over there, because that's what we're having. We got, everybody's doing it and expecting somebody to do something, and then it's not getting done.
Yeah.
And that's our problem. It's so confusing, and that's why we start bringing in these caseworkers to work here 3 days a week, is it? They come in here, and people can come in and talk to them, and we're trying to narrow, because, nobody knows this agency from that agency. I get confused. We got in a big fuss about that just the other day. So we need to, and that's a lot of the stuff I think is happening right there.
I think it is too.
We all signed up and then didn't hear anything. And
Yeah.
started calling around and matched with the case manager and
Is Laura a case manager?
No, she's helped managing all the work through NRCS to make sure it qualifies and whatever. And I just signed a whole bunch of paperwork
Yep. All the,
on work that is being done and it's getting ready to be done.
Okay.
We'll take numbers, make sure we touch base with you.
I want to make sure that we get these
Follow up with
folks.
NRCS.
And then on this first item, on regular item, I think we'll have some more folks that might want to say something. So I want to make sure that we get the silt issue, because that needs to happen, because we're on a time frame that we know is we're not going to make it unless we really get there and make some hay. But Michael and those kind of guys can move a lot of silt, and we've got a lot of trucks here. And I went to Alamogordo the other day, and right outside of there's got a whole bunch of trucks that he's ready to go to work, and he was waiting on a call, so I'm trying to get his information. So I don't know what it's about. Okay.
all right.
Anybody else for Mike? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go into regular items. And we're going to have some public input on this one after we do a presentation, so we can get anybody has a comment about that, just like those things that we expect them to be done. And then we're finding out that we're dropping the ball somewhere, so we've got to figure out why. So this is discussion and possible action on approval of the 100-year floodplain map. And this is Brad. He's with Cobb Finley and Associates, the engineering firm that we were fortunate enough to get on, and we appreciate all the hard work. I know working 6 and 7 days a week I've seen your crews out. Y'all brought in several of them. Just let people know, we went after a grant for this through New Mexico Economic Development Corporation, the COG, the Council of Governments out of Chavez County and our county. We were able to get funding to get these guys started, or it would have been 3 to 5 years through FEMA, their timeline. And so these guys have been working around the clock to get it done. So we're anxious to take this first step.
Yes, sir. So just a little bit of context, Mayor and Council. The item that's in front of you is the approval of the 100-year flood map. As you recall, several months back, we were initially faced after the fires and the floods with destruction that came to homes through flooding. And so one of the first items, as the mayor mentioned, was that FEMA had mentioned that our mapping components weren't going to be done anywhere from 3 to 5 to possibly up to 8 years. And so in order for us to start passing out building permits, we had to update our floodplain. Through that floodplain discussion, one map high level through the state, through J.E. Fuller had been done. That really showed you more of a, once floods came down, what that debris flow looked like, but it followed a lot of the floodplain area. And so what was asked is, at the time, our floodplain manager and our public works director went out into the field. As they were in the field, they put eyes on what the new high water marks were and measured out what the new floodplain would look like. Because there was some discrepancies between those two, we came back to council, made that presentation, and the direction on council was, let's get that third group to go ahead and go out. It's an independent group. Obviously, the qualifications that Cobb Finley has in their area is why they were selected. They have been going night and day, pretty much, as you mentioned, with multiple teams, even teams from Texas into the area, to really identify what that H&H is, so the hydraulic and hydrology study. Once that's done, that analysis, and I'll let Brad get into the details of what they did, really generated what that floodplain looks like. And so today, there's two things that get brought up all the time, the floodway and the floodplain. What we're talking about today is the floodplain. Just so that everyone knows, the floodway is not changing from the adoptive maps in 2014. Those are still FEMA floodway maps that were adopted and that the village has as part of their floodway ordinance. What we will be looking at today, you all have already updated and changed the flood ordinance. And so these maps are really identifying what you adopted in language on direction.
Mayor, Michael, for the benefit of the public, can you explain the difference between the floodway and the floodplain?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilor Corey. That's an excellent question. So the floodway is actually the channel of the river, or where the water is concentrating as it flows. The floodplain is where the water actually branches out and floods into certain areas. So if you have, in this case, it's a 100-year flood. So there's certain metrics that go into measuring what a 100-year flood is, and I'll let Brad get into that a little bit more. But you're really trying to figure out what the new high water marks are. High water mark to high water mark is ultimately what the floodplain consists of. Did that answer? Thank you. With that, what we did is, obviously, Brad's team has been working. I'd like to turn over to Brad now what was done, the analysis that they've done, and they'll also be able to kind of go through the map. The Houston team is logging on. If there's any questions, if you want to take a look at specific areas of the map, we'll show some of the highest areas that are concentrated, some concerns that may pop up just that were identified. And I think there's also an overlay, correct, with the previous map that Ashley and Adam did, so that you can see what that looks like versus what was actually done by this study as well. So,
Brad, how significant were the changes from the previous flood map?
Mayor and councilors, I know you have seen, and I believe we presented previously in a work session, what the current FEMA flood maps show. And what we're seeing is basically a doubling or tripling in width. I can turn that over graphically to Candace Ward, who's in our Houston office, and she has all these graphics available. I believe she's able to share her screen.
So a significant change.
Yes, and principally it's because the dramatic changes in the watershed. I mean, we've effectively got nothing up there anymore to attenuate rainfall events. So when it hits the ground, it basically just runs right off. Obviously, a mature forest cover has significantly more ability to act like a sponge, and that just doesn't exist anymore.
We previously talked about the impact of mitigation. As I recall, you indicated that's going to be decades before the mitigation actually changes the likelihood of.
That's correct, Mayor and councilors. I mean, what we'll see is a progression through various types of vegetation. Ultimately, we'll get back to, what you see outside, a mature forest canopy, but that probably won't happen in any of our lifetimes. But, Mother Nature's pretty resilient, and we'll start seeing recovery, but it'll be a slow, successive process as it heads back towards a pine forest.
And just to let everybody know, this is on YouTube and it's all recorded. So you can go back in and pull this up on YouTube. It'll just come up, talk about Village of Ruidoso Council meeting. So any of the stuff that you miss, you can go watch it again.
And then to Michael's point, so what Candace can show you is what the results of our two-dimensional hydraulic modeling show. And then, as Michael mentioned, Ashley and Adam had done a lot of field-based work where they went out and just picked up the extent of what they saw for the floodplain based on the flood events that occurred last summer. So those weren't a modeled event, those were basically observations. So what our desktop exercise and activity show is, here's what FEMA expects to see and will accept down the road. And we're just contrasting that with what you all saw, and you'll be able to see some differences. So I'll turn it over to you, Candace, so you can explain what's up on the screen.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Am I loud enough? Do I need to be louder?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, great. So we do have a couple of things here that I'm going to walk through, because I know one of the big discussion points is the effective floodplain versus kind of what we came up with. So we did an actual 2D model of your area because we feel like that's a better representation. And so we have updated flows with all of that, which account for the burns that have happened recently. So I'm kind of in the middle of town here, and I can zoom to any place in particular. But kind of what I wanted to show is, and let me change this color. What I'm going to be showing in yellow here is the floodplain that we have come up with. This hatched area in the middle there is the floodway, and then this blue is the old floodplain. And then I do have that draft as well, if y'all would like that to turn on. I don't want to have too many things on at one time, because it can get a little confusing. So that's kind of the first thing that we're showing here. And I think Brad did a great job of kind of teeing it up for me. We do have some areas where it is significantly larger now than it was in the effective FEMA floodplains.
It's kind of hard for everybody here to see up on the screen. I don't know if you can blow it up anymore, but the red dot is the Village of Ruidoso boundary, correct?
Correct, and I can turn on like a Google Street View as well, if that would be more helpful to see streets instead of an aerial. That's easy for me to do. And I can pan through anywhere y'all would like to look at.
Mayor, could we first look at Meander?
Yeah. Can you pull up, do you have an address specifically on Meander? Meander Drive is not a long street, so can you pull that one up?
Yes, if you would point me, and so I'm going to pull up, I think I believe this map book was sent to y'all. If you can kind of give me a grid where it is.
It'll be right around the F6, E6.
Okay. So honestly, not too far from where I am. Let me try. I believe that's kind of further this way.
No, downstream.
Other way.
Okay.
Keep going. right there.
Does the yellow show up well? Can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So for the public, will we be able to get a more interactive map so people can pull up their address, see it?
Mayor and council, once we get these shape files, we should be able to overlay the addresses and then be able to type in an address and it should pull up. We'll do that on our side.
And after it's approved, when's the timeline?
I know that we're working with a contractor right now to try and do the GIS component. Once that's finalized, we should be able to hopefully get that in the next 2 weeks or sooner. Sir.
And then to your point, Mr. Mayor, I mean, this analysis is complete, so if you're ready to move forward with any kind of action, we can deliver files this week that Michael and his team can use.
I mean, basically what we're looking at is actual measurements of what they've done. You mentioned you had boots on the grounds and you had satellite imaging and all of that.
So Candace, I know one of the questions that, the initial question for the council was not necessarily the current floodplain maps. So if we could maybe turn those off and then look at the draft floodplain. I know there was a question about what the difference was between the draft and what you all would come up with, just to see if there was a significant difference.
Yeah, so the black lines I turned on was the draft floodplain. And you can see in some areas, it's very close. And in some
Kansas,
areas, you know.
excuse me, can you pan out? We need more instead of that isolated area.
And I apologize, if you could change the yellow to a darker color?
Sure thing.
Yeah, that's better.
Does
that work or you want something darker?
Can you all see that? Yeah. So one of the items that you'll notice is that in some areas, there is a little bit of difference. So the floodplain lines that were identified by the boots on the ground is actually wider. So some of that will tighten up a little bit. In some areas, the actual lines that was done by the analysis here is actually outside of those black lines that was done by boots on the ground, so it will widen in certain areas. And so that's really what we were trying to identify. Ours was more of the floodplain management assessment on the ground. This is really a data-driven model.
Michael, have we been able yet to quantify how many structures are impacted?
Just to clarify your question, Counselor, is that how many new structures, or we have not? We were waiting on what the final number would be before we can actually see what the difference is. Yes, sir.
So when we'll be able to, people that are looking to rebuild or secure their home, working with NRCS, say in the river, that they'll understand it's going to be desilted, they can look at this map, see what it should encroach upon to their property if it'll get to their house. So how do they work with NRCS on armoring?
Yes, sir.
That's the problem we have, is tying all of this together.
So there's two things that are actually happening at this point in time. NRCS is working with the village to identify what properties are in the floodway versus the floodplain. The reason that's important is, we mentioned before, the floodway is the channel. You cannot do any type of diversion in the floodway.
Right.
And so those residents can't protect their homes.
Can't build a wall.
No, sir. And
So
so.
if it's in the floodplain,
It's in the floodplain, and there are some structures that are both in the floodway and the floodplain. And NRCS is working with those individuals to make sure they can protect what they can protect. And so what happens is that individual would reach out to NRCS. they would first file an application. NRCS will go out and work with them, identify the areas that are impacted. If they're qualifying, then they would let them know what that process is. So they would sign up, file the application, they would get a design or they'd be shown through HESCO baskets what can go into the area, and then they would work with them to get those implemented. So
they would look at the map first to find out if it's even feasible?
they do, but they pretty much know. They'd send that permit to us once we identify the permit. So there's been several permits that we've had to reject because they were on the corner of the floodway or in the floodway directly. But they've been working with us on a close, almost day-to-day, to be able to say, is this in the floodway or is it not? And so they've been working with those maps.
What's the rule of thumb as far as rebuilding if it's in the floodway?
Yeah, thank you, sir. So what the position by the Federal Floodplain Administration has been is that there's something called substantial damage. And the way you determine substantial damage is basically if you were impacted by the floods, you go out and you get a certified contractor or a licensed contractor. They do an assessment to get you where you were at. If you were you can then get a value by either the assessor's office, county assessor's office, or you can get private appraisal, depending on what direction you'd like to go.
And I'm sorry, Michael.
Yes, sir.
That value is pre-flood or post-flood?
It's pre-flood. And so what they do, so just for number's sake, let's say your house is $100,000 and the contractor comes back and says your damage was at $40,000. If you were in the floodway, so the main channel portion, you were allowed to build back because you're not over 50%. You were allowed to build back to where you were at. The issue is you cannot make any enhancements to the footprint or building that were not there previously. The other issue is that for the next.
No mitigation.
No mitigation. The other issue is that number, so in this case, it was a $40,000 to $100,000, so you're at 40%. In the next 10 years, if you get hit again and you get over 50%, you can no longer build back. And so then that's when all of these programs usually get rolled out for buybacks and things of that nature. We haven't seen anything yet. There is discussions on the county side of buyback programs. We're trying to seek both state and federal funding. I know the county is actively looking at those, but nothing has actually formally been announced as of yet. Now, switch it to the floodplain. If you're in the floodplain and you're under 50%, so using the exact same numbers, you're allowed to build back exactly as you were. With this map, what we've been waiting for so long is, let's say a home, and we can identify this through whatever the new flood panels would be. Let's say a home was previously only lifted a foot off the ground because that was what the high water mark was. In April of last year, HUD, who basically is the Housing and Urban Development Administration, implemented that any home that's built in the floodplain is now required to be 2 feet above whatever that high water mark is. So assuming that the floodplain remained the same, in this case, you would have to build 3 feet higher to that standard. Now, that's if you're under 50%, you can build back to exactly as you were. If you're over 50%, you would build back to that new standard. So before you were at 1 foot, you would now have to be at 3. And so those metrics are measured within this map to be able to identify how many feet are there.
So, if I may, all of this being said, all the acronyms and all the other agencies and all the other potential people that have fingers in this pie, if the Village of Ruidoso with this governing body said, we don't agree with this map, everybody just go back in there and get after it. Then, one, there may be the potential for no insurance to speak of. We then, as the village, could be left high and dry.
Liable.
Probably not the liable, right, for anything in the future as far as no more funding, no more trucks, no more anything if there is a disaster. And then it could even go so far as to be on a potential list that says this entity gets no federal funding.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Thank you.
The short hairs clause.
That's it. That's it.
So, I mean, it's pretty complicated. So what we need is when people come in, one-on-one, we sit down with them, walk them through this.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, Ron, practically speaking, the permitting process, when will that start back up?
Well, Mike and I were talking, Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, we were waiting for the maps, of course, and then we're gonna do have that. We've spoke to a resident yesterday, and we were giving direction of trying to get the permitting process going, and I think we'll be able to meet with the residents and be able to work with them and see if possible to get a permit or not.
Yes. And Mayor, Councilor Corey, one of the last items that we would have to do is just verify all of the increased footings, if there are any, within the floodplain and what those are looking like now. That shouldn't take more than a week or so. Once we get all of that information, we can start looking at what people would have to rebuild to. We are still going to require, though, that anyone that is requesting a building permit still has to follow that substantial damage process, which means that they would still have to either get a licensed contractor to do an assessment of what would bring them back to normal or where they were at, and then what the value of their house is based on either the tax assessor's listing or on that private appraisal. And so once that comes back, they turn that information into our planning and zoning department, and then a letter's done based on that information. It's called the letter of substantial damage. In those letters, what we do is we basically identify, this is the percentage you're at, this is the requirements that you have to meet, and this is, you can start moving forward for a building permit.
Mayor, if we could, Michael, if we could circle back, because I've gotten a lot of calls about the potential for selling your property. Realistically, I mean, what's the timeline there? I know it's out of our hands, but.
Yes, sir.
Given the current funding or lack of funding environment we're in, how practical is that as a solution?
So the information that we have today is that in the budget for NRCS or USDA for a buyback program, and this is nationally, from what I've seen at the federal level, that bill, which should be implemented in April if no government shutdowns and everything work through, it's only about $180 million for the nationally.
Nationally.
I know that there's more funds that are being requested. There's CDRs or I forget what that stands for. Basically, there's more requests for money at the federal level being asked to be put into that because you have the fires in California, you had the flooding in North Carolina, you now have the fires in South Carolina, you had the hurricanes in Texas, and then you had the fires here. So between those 5 disasters, which were all federal disasters, there's a request to significantly meet that amount of money for that. Now, with that being said, if it's not increased at all, those monies probably will not come here. That's the reality.
So Mayor, you understand my point.
Yeah, what we're-
is not giving false hope.
Right, we don't want to give any
exactly.
false hope, but there are things that we're still working on.
Yes.
With the new presidential administration, we've reached out to Representative Johnson out of Levelland area, and he sits on different boards and commissions. We've reached out to, I forgot what they're, Christine Ohm, and those people to say, hey, don't forget about Ruidoso. And so I have received some callbacks from Representative Johnson and his staff that they're looking at making changes to make sure that this FEMA stuff, money's redirected, but that FEMA, all this stuff gets fixed. He said that they, others, and the president had toured places that had received funding or was supposed to receive funding 10, 15 years ago that still aren't complete, and they want to make sure that they're completed. And so we feel like with the same conversation that we will be able to get some funding, but you're right. We don't want to, because I got people calling saying, I want to sell my house.
No, exactly.
And I don't blame them. And so we're working through this process to find out how do we get that funding either through NRCS or USDA, NRCS or FEMA. NRCS is USDA.
Yes, sir.
They're under USDA. So to make sure where the funding comes from, there's different strings attached to it. And so we're trying to figure out what do we get, but it all started with this document because they didn't even want to talk to us about bridge designs, the culvert designs that are gonna have to be upsized 3 times?
With that being said, Mayor, the one thing I do want to point out is that there is an active push right now by NRCS in conjunction with us and the tax assessor's office to collect the data, specifically put together numbers, and submit that information as a direct request for what belongs in this community. That same process was followed, and that's how this area got the 50 million. Obviously, there aren't any promises, but there is an active push to get all of that done.
Yes.
Very quickly, so that we can try and submit.
And there's a
that
big
request.
pot of money, 147 million, that I was told that's coming, and that we were notified that Ruidoso and other parts of New Mexico should be on that they would get a big portion of that.
So we are aware that there's the CDB GRR funds. We'll actually be having a meeting next month on that. It hasn't been announced yet, but Department of Homeland Security will be.
CDBR.
Community Development Block Grant, and it's basically for disaster reuse funds.
That's the R.
So we'll be having a meeting over those. Mayor and the manager should be receiving an email by close of business today as kind of a survey. And then there's going to be more information that goes out to the public once they start pushing that out.
And Mayor and Council, a couple of weeks ago, along with Commissioner Chavez, we had a meeting with NRCS on a buyout program. And just as Michael stated, we're going to do an inventory of all the properties along the river, submit it to, we're looking at April 1st, submit it to NRCS. That's when they would apply for the grant dollars, knowing that we have an estimate of what a property pre-disaster value is on the homes. So that's what we're working on.
And that way, property owners, commercial, whatever, they can come in and collect on their insurance. And then our goal is to be able to purchase the land. And then from that point on, it would be green space, park bench, dog park, walking trails, whatever, access to the river for fishing, whatever. So it's complicated still.
Yes, sir. But related back to this item specifically, so the modeling that was done, the assessments that were done, it basically models your 100-year flood. And so we've done this discussion multiple times, but during the fires and the floods, we were actually in a drought. And so the highest rainfall that was actually seen was only about 1.7 inches an hour for those rains. Usually during the monsoon season, you get anywhere from 2 to 4 on the high end. I believe the 100-year flood is 4.5 inches an hour.
Roughly.
And so,
In total.
in total.
So, Brett, could you explain what the 100-year flood designation actually means? Because a lot of us are confused about that.
Certainly, Mayor and Councilor. So basically, a 100-year flood is effectively the 1% chance of a storm of a given size occurring at any one time. So you could have multiple 100-year events in one.
And to the layperson, that's what's confusing. 'Cause
Yeah.
You hear 100 years and you think, well, we've got 99 left.
Right, we had a 100-year, we're done for 99, not the case. Mother Nature makes decisions that none of us can control.
Sure.
Is there any other questions?
I've got one, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Well, Michael, you said that in the first part that what we're looking at adopting a floodplain map, not a floodway map. So that you said that the current floodway map will remain in place. So I thought that we were going to be looking at the new floodway, new floodplain, because if the floodplain increases, it would seem obvious that the floodway would increase, and that would affect your property owners along the river. That would affect the decisions that they would be making. So I just wanted a little elaboration on that. And
So, Mayor and Councilor Eby, during this entire process, we've been working with FEMA and their floodplain management team out of Region 6. We'd also been working with some of the mapping groups. And so what we were basically told is that floodway, keep it as is. It will probably change, but what you can definitely tell is floodplain. The modeling right now between 2D, as Brad can get into it, or the team from Houston can, is accepted from a floodplain component. There's a lot of information that is still being discussed from a floodway perspective, and a lot more data that would have to go into that. Plus, one of the other discussions that we had at the time was the floodway in 7 years with everything that happens may be different than what it is today. And so floodplain will probably remain fairly the same over time. That was the direction we got. So we went with the floodplain, as that would be the fastest and what would impact the most individuals over the course of time. So if you're in the floodplain and possibly a future floodway, you would still be impacted by water. We could tell that immediately, and by building to the new standards, you'd be able to be protected to some degree if the house was taken out in the beginning.
So with that, would we be looking at a floodway, a new adoption in the next 2-3 years, depending upon the data that comes in with our rain events in the future?
So we have asked Cobb Finley to take a look at a possible floodway impact. It is not a priority as of right now. The floodplain was obviously the priority. There could be more information. I think we'd first want to go through the FEMA process to have the floodplain adopted, see what comes back with that. So there is an entire process of 180 days, public engagement, small hearings that they do, all of that would happen. The understanding as we moved on this floodplain is that we would follow all of the floodplain requirements that FEMA would require in order to adopt it. So it still would go through that process for a FEMA floodplain designation, but it's adoptable by us to meet those standards. We were also given that it would meet any legal requirements if we move forward as well.
And, you know, and with the desilting, that's going to change some things. Does anybody have any questions? Because I want to open it up to the audience, see if anybody has anything. You guys good? Okay, I want to go ahead and open it up to the public. If you have any questions, go ahead, Jennifer. Come on. Okay, we just need to get you on the microphone so the millions listening around the world. So can you stick her microphone up right there?
She's going to get this one.
Oh, you're going to, he's got you a handy dandy, she does. And to let people know, I have a fire map that goes all the way back to the 1800s that I think Gina set out front, so you can understand fire's been a part of our history here for 100+ years.
Oh, my gosh.
And so to look at the different, and then when we're talking about this floodway, you can identify the burn areas and how they directly impact us. And it's just sitting out here, and you're welcome to take a look at it and do whatever.
You mentioned earlier that we would be able to look at our addresses, and can you tell me again or repeat when we can do that?
Can I answer these questions, Mayor?
Yeah, or you or Brad with Cobb Finley, you're our.
I'm sure if it was.
I think we're at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole point is I want the public to understand,
Yes.
because it is massively confusing.
Yes, sir.
And then trying to tie into the funding to help people, that the reason it was done this way was to help, it was the most expedited way we could find to get it where people can start pulling permits and trying to rebuild their homes.
Yes, sir.
Or decide, I've got to move on with my life, and then we're working on funding.
No, not a problem. Yes, so what we're hoping for is that in the next 2 weeks, we'll have a contractor, well, if this is adopted today, we would be able to get these files this week. Once we have our GIS contractor on base, we would upload those, and from what we've been told, hopefully 2 weeks after that.
And the GIS is the Geological
Information system.
Information system that pinpoints addresses, locations. We've got everything in there that's satellite driven, like on your GPS. Yes, a lot like that, yes. So that you can at home look at these things and try to make some plans, because we've got people wanting to rebuild, we've got builders, engineers calling us, and we're trying to get you the information so A, it's rebuildable, financeable, insurable, all those. Okay, is there anybody else? Don't be shy, this is when you need to. Come on, Bill Hall. And then you can be next.
All right, my question's a little bit more of a dork question. You mentioned, as I said, all the GIS components. What I would love to see the village be able to do is post the shape files of the floodplain, the shape files of the existing floodway, and the boundaries so that you can download them. I mean, I look at stuff on Google Earth on my computer. I can download shape files, KML or KMZ files. I can also download those into my phone to Google Earth where I could walk out in the field and see where it is. I can also do it on my Garmin GPS. When you talk about, that's a very quick and dirty way to be able to do that for people to get that information. Like I said, hunters, any hunter that's in here will know how to do that.
We can do that.
But that's the sort of thing I'd like to be able to see, because particularly with the floodway not changing right away, if you've got property that's near the old floodway or in the new one, yeah, that's going to be a difficult situation, because I can take you areas where I live where I know the floodway's changed, so from the old map.
Yep.
But that was it. That's why I'd just like to be able to see a public dissemination of that stuff we're paying for, so.
Vaughn, would you?
And Mayor, we should be able to post those as soon as we get them from his team.
Okay, excellent. Yes, sir.
My name's David Lanning. I live on Singing Pines in the Upper Canyon. I don't know how many flood events we had after the fire, but I'm going to say 5 or 6.
Yes.
The last one, the only one I missed was over Labor Day. And that is when the vast majority of the silting occurred, around our property. I mean, we went from still having a channel, rocks, all kinds of stuff, to it just being flat.
Yep.
No visible. So I guess first, I don't even understand why they're talking about desilting right now, because none of these flood events were after significant rains like we normally have during the monsoon season. So if they come in and backhoe, Caterpillar, whatever, create a new channel, how do we know that's just not going to flood again this August when it rains?
Well, it could, but it most definitely will if we don't do something. It's got nowhere to run but to the road. Yeah, so that's why the desilting, and they're looking at taking it back to the best way that they could figure out it was. Like when we did out at the duck pond at Alto, we now have that GIS so we know the bottom of it where it should be. So we took it down to bedrock there. That's not what I don't think is going to happen in Upper Canyon. I haven't seen all the variables. Have you yet, Mike?
No, sir.
Okay. But the whole purpose is to dig that back out as close as it was.
So what we can say, Mayor, to the point of desilting is, given the river projects that have been up and down the river over the last 4 years, we have what was designed and what those initial levels were. So it may not be back to bedrock, but whatever those river projects were at those depths is what they'll desilt to for the most part.
And then we're going to come back with armoring, just like we did up above Second Bridge. All that armoring got destroyed. Now we're talking about doing it in a more permanent fashion.
Yes, sir.
With rock, not that shotcrete or any of that stuff anymore. Did that answer any of your questions?
No.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Well, and that's kind of where we're at. We're wanting to make sure that we do the work that needs to be done, and that you're able to see how close you are to the floodplain, what that's going to impact you. Then it's going to be a decision that everyone will have to make themselves.
But also, isn't there a good chance that if we do get significant, more normal rains, the floodplain is going to change again, and you're just going to start over?
Yeah.
All this again?
I mean, go ahead, Mike.
Mayor, to this point, so one of the things that the modeling is doing is taking into account more rain. And so the rain that's being taken into account is at a much higher level, a lot higher than what we received during these last during the disaster. And so the model is actually accounting for the rains that the resident is specifically speaking about.
Okay. And then we'll have to start replacing culverts and all this stuff. And we've had this discussion before. Every time it would flood and we'd have debris and we were starting to dig out stuff, people said, why are you wasting your time and money? It's just going to happen again. Well, the issue is the more we build up, the more damage that we have with our infrastructure. We had quite a bit. And then it just goes downriver and takes out every cul-de-sac, every culvert, and what I got, culverts, and then bridge, and then it just keeps going. So that's why we're trying to mitigate it from this end down. Because once we've seen it, you clean this area out, but upstream you didn't clean it out, it just fills that one right back in.
And Mayor and Council, just as you stated, we'll get with our engineer now, our on-call engineering on the bridge replacements, working with Cobb Finley and be able to size the bridges and the culverts.
Because they wouldn't discuss any of that because they don't want to waste any time or money until we have this number.
Yes.
So we'll go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm up in the Upper Canyon too, along with this gentleman here. I definitely agree. I think the silting is going to help quickly. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I think it would though. But this is probably a comment, then a quick question for Michael though too. We're in the Upper Canyon though too, and have had a retaining wall since 1970. And if the retaining wall were not there, our house probably would have been gone. And my question, I think, related, and Michael, I can get with you offline if necessary though too, is it my understanding if the wall was damaged less than 50%, you do not need a permit and you can rebuild back exactly as is? Is that correct?
So the wall would still need a permit.
Okay.
We would just need the assessment of the wall previous to the damage and the amount that it would cost to bring it back. That's the substantial damage of your structure, and as long as it's under 50%, you could build it back as is.
Okay.
Depending on if you're in the floodway or floodplain. And
Okay.
so that's what this will help with.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, we got another one right there. Just introduce yourself, please, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm Bill Hovel from El Paso, Texas. I own my second home here and have owned my property for 40 years. Right down the street here at Innsbrook Village, and our condo building was right on the edge of Cedar Creek. So my first question is Cedar Creek being included in all this discussion? Yes, okay. Well, what
To a point. Now, a lot of Cedar Creek is in the county, so it's a little different, but now the flood, all of the stuff that Cobb Finley was included in Cedar Creek?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we modeled the entire watershed, so
Okay.
you'll see floodplain designation even though it's outside the village.
Okay, so yes, you'll be able to get on it.
But Mayor, just to clarify, depending on if someone's in the county versus the village, the county would have to enact their own requirements. They would probably have this information that we could share, but the village itself would be the ones implementing the policy.
But Dr. Hovell, to your point, you're in the village.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's at Innsbrook, but it comes off of Cedar Creek. So there's a lot of mitigation being done in Cedar Creek. And then at Innsbrook, the association had signed an agreement with NRCS. And I haven't seen any work going on over there.
None.
Where they were changing a lot of the way that flowed through there.
They haven't yet. There is discussion for the ground to get a little more dried out before they start excavating. And back to a little bit of the discussion earlier, the desilting of these creeks, I'm assuming that when they're going to have to do some excavation, and thus this floodway, the main channel should deepen. Well, the point that I wanted to make is that 30 years ago, 35 years ago probably, when I was a lot younger and I was president of Condo 143 down the street, I had to grab a hold of a pine tree that was there and swing around it to get on the side of our building. We had like 2 feet of a bank, and then it was Cedar Creek. And we started noticing in our condos cracking in the walls, and we started looking at it, and sure enough, that particular corner had dropped a good couple of inches. We had to jack the building up, shim it with some steel, and basically level it out. Well, at that point, I went down to Roswell and spoke to the Corps of Engineers and made some calls up to Santa Fe and got permission to riprap our side of the creek to bank stabilization. And so we did that, and we poured rocks, we extended it. They hammered these long 8-foot rebar wires, bent them in two, and then held down this like chain link fence material, came up and did the same thing at the top. Well, and I have video of this during one of these flash floods. If we wouldn't have done that, we would have lost our building. But my recommendation, or just my 2 cents worth, is bank stabilization here, whether it be that retaining wall you have or this riprap kind of wall that we did on ours, made all the difference in the world, so.
And I agree, and that's part of what NRCS's deal is bank stabilization.
So Mayor and Council, NRCS is doing some stabilization. They can't do it all.
Right.
What part of the allocation from the state that we received is able to do some of those components. We do have a contract that is, or one of our contractors who's able to do those kinds of projects is looking to assist once this floodplain map came out, and once any mitigation components come out, we can start working on those as well. So people may be familiar with the log rollovers within the river. They may be familiar with the rock weirs. There's some riprap components that were in there. We're looking to upsize those based on what this data says and strengthen the river in a natural method now that we have this data and can move forward. And those are things that FEMA was waiting on for us to be able to act on moving forward as well.
What's the status of, I know at one point we were talking about maybe some redesign of Cree Meadows Road. What's happening there?
I'm not up.
Well, the only thing that ties into Innsbrook right there,
Yes.
and it washed that out.
Yes.
So Innsbrook had a remodeling, and I saw the one that they voted to take, which is drastically changing the way that water runs through there, but we haven't seen it adopted. I haven't seen anything, but then we were looking at how's that going to affect that crossing there with that.
Right.
And so it'll have to be redone.
Specifically what I'm talking about, Michael, Adam, early on, you had looked at some type of automatic barrier. Is that still?
Is that for low water crossings?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have, and we are trying to get quotes on systems for low water crossings specifically. I think we've identified 9? We've identified 9 low water crossings. What we would do is try and identify funding to put arms on both sides of those low water crossings to be able to stop traffic. Those would include cameras, they would include sensors, weather sensors, to be able to assist with those kinds of information, with that kind of data to close the arm down. And actually, this kind of information is something that we'd like to put so that we know where to position them, what the low water crossing looks like, and where the most dangerous areas would have to be set. But do you want to?
No, I was going to say, Councilor Corey, we have been in communications with a couple companies that are supposed to give us quotes and giving them measurements of the depths of the bridges that we have, so they can actually put transducers on those bridges to automatically drop those arms.
Okay, but no plans to actually modify the existing road or culverts?
No, sir. No, we did work with, and that was one of the things we took to FEMA and gave them the data we got, as far as the damage to the bridges. It was up to them if they're going to fund it or not, and this one was not funded.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mayor. In addressing Councilman Corey's question, is the culverts under Cree Meadow were improved. We had, I don't know, I'm going to just take a guess here. Maybe they were at that, in the old days, 18 inches in diameter. And now they're a good 3 feet, and there was a concrete barrier built on the uphill flow of that. And my driveway is right there. So this worked very well, except when we did get these flash floods and logs and debris were washing down, it very quickly clogged that and filled up behind it where the water went over the street and left about a 4 foot of mud on my driveway. It looked like chocolate icing. It was incredible. All of that's been bulldozed over, and there's a big berm there. But one of the other things that Innsbrook has, and you were asking what is their plan? Well, I talked to them yesterday, and basically they don't have a plan. Their plan essentially was to put cement cubes in the middle of Cedar Creek to make the water instead of it being a straight shot downstream, it would be broken up. But that's just going to throw water to the sides. And the problem is that we have 3 dams that go across our property. And I told them, which I found out 35 years ago, and they didn't know anything about this, that each of those dams we cannot breach them. Corps of Engineers told me you're impounding water. And I said, where? He said, well, behind these 3 dams. And I said, well, I'll get back to you. And I went looking, and sure enough, all 3 of those dams are utility easements coming across. And with this flood, it showed the current board of directors that they are indeed that. There's a good 1 foot wide conduits running through there with water, gas, electrical lines, everything crosses back and forth. So those dams, unless that's all going to be moved or elevated or hidden under a bridge or what, I don't see how those dams are going to be able to be removed. But if we wouldn't have had the amount of debris flowing down, I think those culverts would have held up pretty well. It's just that when the water did go down, and then Innsbruck did something kind of stupid. They put up this little fence to keep the elk out, because the elk were walking all over our greens and putting big footprints in them, and it makes putting a little more difficult. Long story short, they put this fence across that lower dam, which immediately got pushed out, and all of that got crumpled down there and started to become, I don't know, just, it started catching more debris, which just worsened the problem. So Innsbruck needs a talking to on that particular feature. But I think those culverts would have held up okay. But again, 100-year storm, very unconventional situations and variables that came into effect, logs, gas, the propane gas tanks. I mean, we had I saw a dumpster come on down over the dams and across Cedar Creek, and where it ended up, who knows? So it was quite a very unique situation, but anyway.
Thank you. Michael?
Mayor, if we can comment on 2 of those items.
Sure.
So the first one I'll comment on is the debris component, and then I'll pass it over to Brad for an actual assessment of infrastructure that's occurring and what that will do for culverts. So for the debris component, when you all first when we first came to you all with this, the initial map you saw was actually the debris map that was done by J.E. Fuller at the state level. I'm not sure if you remember that one. That was the orange and purple map. Yep. One of the biggest issues that we've been discussing is that in reality, the majority of silt and debris is still on the mountain. We didn't get any rains that really knocked that down. Right. And so what we're trying to do is make sure through NRCS and through other entities is that we partner to create trash racks and capture components to be and silting ponds to be able to capture the majority of that the next time it comes down. Because if it doesn't, those turn into rockets, and basically any structures that are being placed right now will get destroyed. And so those are things that we don't want to do, and we're actively trying to make sure that we can address. And then I'll pass it over to Brad on the assessment side.
So, Mr. Mayor and councilors, I think you're aware, and as you've noted, you've seen a lot of our survey crews here in town. So they've been out collecting all of the asset information that they can find. There's been a lot of windshield time involved, but we'll have a comprehensive database available soon that will effectively document where we found culverts, the bridges and the various structures that you guys will then have an inventory and then work from there with respect to how to go about maintaining or increasing in size.
That's
or
the big
even
key right there,
replacing.
maintaining it.
Right. And to Michael's point, debris is going to continue to be a challenge for years to come. Obviously, the man-made products have been dealt with, but what comes down off the mountainside, you're just going to have to deal with when it comes, depending on the nature of the event, the storm event.
Candace, did you have something you wanted to add a while ago?
I was just going to note that you can download the effective FEMA floodplain from the FEMA website in shapefile form. I think somebody was interested in that.
Okay, and that's just, which website? I know FEMA
I
what?
always use, it's the Map Service Center, so it's msc.fema.gov, and you can download the effective FEMA data straight there.
And Mayor,
It's all available online.
Okay, thank you, Candace.
I believe that link is actually on the website for the village. If you clicked on Salt and South Fork fires and scroll down, there's a quick links underneath that'll talk about maps. If you click on maps, don't go to the actual map, but under quick links and maps, it should take you to that site as well.
But is that this new map or?
No, those are the FEMA floodplain maps.
Okay.
So Alex, you guys will be ready, once we go through this and it gets adopted, somebody can come in and y'all will be able to pull it up on your screen and actually look at this.
He hasn't been involved in the discussions with the engineer, so we'll
Yeah, but I mean, once we get this adopted, it's going to his
Yes,
department.
sir. Yes, sir.
And Mr. Mayor, we've already actually created a KML file. I actually sent that over yesterday. So being not a hotshot modeler like our crew in Houston, I can load that into Google Earth and I can function that way. So.
Do we have anybody with their hands up online? No. Okay, we'll close the public portion. Thank you. I think we got plenty of information. Brian Parker left. And Bill, did you want something else to say? You already said it, didn't you?
I already said it.
Okay. So we got those done. So, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we accept the 100-year floodplain map that has been presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, second. Any final discussion? Roll call, please, Jenny.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Corey.
Aye.
Okay, well, it feels like a milestone was crossed, but I don't feel any better.
No, it's.
I mean, we got a lot to get done, and I don't know if this is going to help a whole lot of people right off the bat, but man, we've got to at least move forward.
So Mayor, honestly, with this start, if residents who are looking to get building permits, the first thing we strongly suggest that they do is go out and get their substantial damage information, which is an assessment of their property by a licensed contractor to bring them back as is.
So their adjuster would need to get a hold of a licensed contractor.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then they'd either bring in the appraisal, or they can get an appraisal from the county that would just need to be signed, and they've been signing those a lot, so they know exactly what you need.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Now we're going to move on. Thank you very much, Brad, for sticking with it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the Village of Ruidoso strategic planning. We'll take a 5-minute break, or just till everybody has a chance to wiggle. But look at that map outside on the fire.